1 month after the opening of the birth outline. Southern U Kingdom. North Earth County 2. Outskirts, below Whistling Wind Mountain. 3. Several hundred people had assembled at this ordinarily not at all eye-catching and small kingdom's mountain range at this time. Several pavilion tea clubs sat down, many men and women of all ages wearing robes from every which sect. Breaking them down, there unexpectedly were 15 sects. However, these sects were not that popular in the Azure Dragon territory, nor could they stack up against those with good reputations. They talked and laughed, joyous and harmonious, but among the laughter was a vaguely exposed trace of murderous intent. At this time, a wooden boat flew into the sky. When they saw that wooden boat, everyone's eyes carried a thread of unhappiness. The wooden raft descended, and a man and 5 women walked down. All of the cultivators stared blankly. They saw 5 young women with the countenance of flowers, faces like the moon, their temperaments each with their own merits. Seeing that youngster among them move unhurriedly, one look at the 5 girls crowding around him was enough to show they served this youth. Whistling Wind Mountain's 100 cultivators clamored for a moment, each showing bewilderment. The man and 5 women did not wear robes, and they did not know either if this was some small sex or some aristocratic family's child. They soon after did not think of this any further. After the birth outline commenced, small gangs that ordinarily would not show their faces all revealing their talents were not at all strange. Surprisingly, there's this many people here. The youth was speechless looking at the people everywhere on this mountain. Young master, the birth outline happens once every 100 years, who would miss it? A girl carrying a lovely expression lightly laughed. Is there a sister here? Another girl curiously scanned looked all over the surroundings. You honor, do not attract attention. The result will become apparent when the birth outline arrives. Oh, this group naturally was Su Xing and his 5-star maidens. Master, please take a seat. The skillful star that was still accustomed to her maid's skirt found a seat at the tea stand. Little E, you don't need to be this way. Just treat me as a big brother or something like that, fine. Su Xing looked at Yan Qing's reverent and respectful service as something he was somewhat not used to. Wu Xinjie rolled her eyes. This young master of hers really was fond of little sisters. 5. This is servant's duty. Little E said very seriously. Su Xing looked at the girl's meticulous manner, her distracted expression. It seemed as if she had once again returned to how she was initially. In the miserable battle that day in Stone Tablet City, there was not a single piece of good flesh in Su Xing's whole body. He originally thought that he would need several months to recover, but who would have imagined when he opened his eyes the next day, his body was already fully recovered. After he rose, the skillful star Yan Qing stood guard at his side. After she used the 3 arrows lethal crossbow, she was very much off. Her complexion was also very wrong, yet she was resolute and firm. Only after he heard from Wu Xinjie did he understand that, during the time he was unconscious, Yan Qing and he already signed a star duel covenant. The contract possessed an unexpected recovery effect, thus, his serious injuries could heal so quickly. It was just that what Wu Xinjie did not foresee was that the skillful star Yan Yizhen 6 was not only cold on the outside and warm on the inside, but also that she actually was too dedicated to her work. She was determined to stay close to Su Xing during the time he had not yet awakened. Even Lin Yingmei shivered when she saw those cold vermilion pupils. In the end, it was only when Su Xing gave the order that she entered the star nest to self-cultivate. When he saw that Yan Yizhen was still standing to the side, Su Xing shook his head and pulled her hand to make her sit down. At this moment, Wu Xinjie already finished examining the 100 cultivators. She did not find any of the 10 great sects. Southern U Kingdom was located in a remote area, so it could be assumed that was very difficult to arouse the attention of a great sect in this sort of place. I heard a month ago, the great Liang dynasty's Stone Table City was blockaded by dark clouds. The rumor is that the ghost cavalry king appeared in the flesh. Would you say that's true or not? Several chatting cultivators suddenly said this, their voices not loud, but sufficient enough to make everyone present hear them. Asking his question, the other 100 bored-to-death cultivators widely discussed. It is definitely true. Each of Liangshan continent's great sects have already gone insane. They say the Ghost Cavalry King possesses an undying evil art. 7. It seems everything under heaven will be in a great upheaval. Great upheaval, my ass? This Ghost Cavalry King was already no longer brave as he was in those days. Reportedly, Emperor Liang personally appeared and eliminated him with a sword. Damn it. Truly useless. A Buddhist monk with a shiny cranium drank wine from his bottle gourd, his drunken face red. He wore a somewhat tattered blue kasaya, carrying a string of Buddhist beads he flicked through. A Vajra staff leaned against his chair, and watching him drink wine and consume meat, he actually was a monk of wine and meat. His cultivation of galaxy early stage was considered very high, and to speak of it, he was quite powerful. A priest of the Blue Jewel Temple. 9. Wu Xinjie whispered. Blue Jewel Temple. The central plains of the Azure Dragon territory were dominated by the 10 great sects, long without soil that attained enlightenment. Actually, it was said that the Dharma flourished in the Azure Dragon territory's western regions, the burning incense luxuriant. It was just that the western regions were too far, so running away to here was very rare. Su Xing nodded, secretly sizing him up. This wine and meat monk's face was rough, his brows like swords, rather a bit somewhat venting his anger. What inside story has Great Master Wine and Meat heard of? A star cultivator curiously asked. It seemed that this monk was very well known here. Right? Emperor Liang originally could only suppress him, so how did he manage to kill him this time? Great Master Wine and Meat's nostrils blew out air, and he proudly said, "This great master heard that the Ghost Cavalry King was really out of luck this time. He was deliberately released by someone, and I heard that person wanted to kill him purely because he felt irked by the sight of the Ghost Cavalry King." Nonsense. An elderly man coldly said, "With how powerful Ghost Cavalry King is, who would be this unafraid of death? Let's see you say it." Need I say it? Of course it was the Purple Thunder Monster. Monk Wine and Meat laughed. Purple Thunder Monster. An uproar appeared inside the tea club. Shi Yuan went, and she winked at Su Xing. Su Xing was helpless. He had never thought that the Purple Thunder Monster title would unexpectedly diffuse to the Southern Yu Kingdom. However, this Monk Wine and Meat's words attracted Su Xing's interest. The birth outline began after that day in Stone Tablet City, and Su Xing never paid attention as all his thoughts were on cultivation. The Purple Thunder Monster? The purple monster that signed Lin Chong, you say? The old man was shocked. Who else could it be? Really, this Ghost Cavalry King. It is said that his divine soul was nearly entirely extinguished by the monster before he finally fled. Emperor Liang then eliminated him. I hear that Emperor Liang even invited him to enter the palace for a commendation as appreciation. What a pity he continually receives no reply. However, according to what this great master knows, this invitation perhaps harbors evil intentions. That devil-suppressing steel has already been snatched away by the Purple Thunder Monster, and I fear the people searching for him are not few. Monk Wine and Meat laughed heartily. Inside the stand was the sound of people sucking in cold air. This kind of rare Buddhist treasure that was the devil-suppressing steel had unexpectedly been taken away, and for Emperor Liang to not have slaughtered him was strange. Just what is the background of this Purple Thunder Monster? Contracting the legendary Lin Chong and even daring to commit offenses against the great Liang's great sects, he is too unbridled. Since it's the monster, what's strange about that? They say that the Ghost Cavalry King has a devil weapon, the Ghost's God's Bane. Emperor Liang would have taken it away when he died. This who knows? It cannot be said for sure that the Purple Thunder Monster took away Ghost's God's Bane, and only then letting the Ghost Cavalry King go afterwards. Monk Wine and Meat was somewhat intoxicated. Good gracious, if the Purple Thunder Monster suppressed him to obtain this devil cult divine weapon, it seems he is the second demonic head. The birth outline has started, so we had better be careful. Heaven knows whether or not the Purple Thunder Monster will find us. So true. The Purple Thunder Monster, Su Xing, who heard these rumors, really did not know whether he should laugh or cry. Wu Xinjie moved close to him, her chest pushing against his arm. Her lilac tongue licked the entrance to his ear, her charming voice whispering. Right now, young lord, he truly is someone that will scare people on sight. Su Xing patted Wu Xingjia's savory butt, hinting her to be a bit more decent. Wu Xingjia's face turned red, and she flirtatiously stared at him. Yan Yizhen was vaguely indifferent towards these two. That monk has taken notice several times. It is somewhat ill in intent. If he seeks death, then we shall help him, Shi Yuan coldly said. But what about Big Brother's devil suppressing steel and ghosts God's bane? It seems it will draw a very big trouble. And Suwen said quietly, for these two kinds of items, the former was a stone steel of the right path, and the latter was the divine weapon of a devil cult. One was right and the other evil, but both had unexpectedly fallen into Su Xing's hands. Now, perhaps the blooming water sword sect would be laughing mad. Even if they did not need the alliance of ten chase to kill, it possessed the restlessness of a great sect. It may be trouble, but he isn't lacking for this. Wu Xingjie disapproved. These two treasures were indeed the spoils of war she made a narrow escape to obtain. Sending them back without good cause was simply a pipe dream. The surrounding cultivators chatted all the more joyously, and they began to discuss who in the star duels could be dubbed outstanding heroes. Just look at how those great sects will show their strength in this birth outline. Monk Wine and Meat played the profound thinker. I see the most high path Xie Yuan as fully deserving, without reservations. Princess Ling Yen of the True Immortals Hall 11 is also very promising, and she is even Emperor Liang's daughter. She has imperial backing, and the star generals these two signed reportedly have exceedingly powerful military force. Isn't Lifeless Hall's Yen Wudao a monster? With cultivation even higher than Xie Yuan's, at Galaxy late stage. Damn it. We practiced how many decades and still haven't reached as high as that child did in 3 years. The way I see it, the victor is among these three. It cannot be said for sure if the Vermilion Bird territory or the Black Turtle territory also have formidable Star Master. They chatted quite vigorously, and a displeased Shi Yuan interrupted them. Then what about Lin Chang's young master? Seeing them this confident, Shi Yuan unhappily yelled. He could sign a contract with Lin Chong, but could it be that he has no hope? Everyone stared blankly. Then they laughed uproariously. Although the Purple Thunder Monster has signed Lin Chong, it seems he definitely is not part of any sections. As a result, he handles his affairs in this way that pleases himself. And it's only the second phase, yet he is showing off like this. This kind of Star Master often dies the quickest. Shi Yuan refused to accept that as final. Yuan, Su Xing shook his head. Shi Yuan harumphed, then sat down. At this moment, a languid voice suddenly interjected. The way I see it, maybe this Purple Thunder Monster just could obtain victory. The one who spoke was a graceful young lady wearing a flax short skirt, boots, a cloak, and she had green hair. One hand grasped a stick, the other held wine. The skin of her thighs was a satiny snow white that would make others drool. As a result of the star duel's beginning stages, young girls simply just became the most dangerous existences. At first glance, Su Xing even thought she was a star general, but he saw her cultivation was also nebula middle stage. Why do you say so? Monk Wine and Meat asked. Truly stupid. The Purple Thunder Monster is very good at changing appearances. It is said he has more than a dozen faces. How could such a careful person be said to be a show-off? In addition, which of the matters he encountered would not make Yen Wudao, Xie Yuan, Princess Ling Yen and the rest see only his dust without hope of catching up? Fighting alone cannot overcome every situation. Monk Wine and Meat grunted. The more you all underestimate him, E12 will be even more full of confidence in him. It's a pity that the star duels cannot be gambled upon, otherwise, I would suffocate. The girl sweetly smiled. Because she was slightly tipsy and red in the cheeks, she was extremely cute. Everyone stared blankly as they were left speechless by the girl. Monk Wine and Meat chuckled, a radiance flashing in his eyes. He said, This great master sees that you must be one of the legendary star generals? The green-haired girl put up her slender and beautiful legs. That faintly discernible sight made the blood vessels of the people watching spray open. The girl blinked, and she lifted one corner of her mouth in a smile. I am a star general. Do you have the ability to subdue me? As far as I can see from what I have read ahead, it seems the Ghost Cavalry King truly was killed off-screen. I don't know if he may make a reappearance. Right arrow curving left 9. Right arrow curving left 10. Previously was young master. Right arrow curving left 11. Well, there you go. She is the apparent strongest child of the strongest emperor and is currently a disciple of the strongest institution in all the land. No wonder she is so haughty. Haughty, get it? Right arrow curving left 12. Generally means people, but is uncommonly used as I. The atmosphere all of a sudden became heavy. Monk Wine and Meat stood up with a swish. That pair of large eyes the size of bells stared at the Star Maiden, his nostrils huffing. Not only he but more than a dozen star cultivators also rose, their Adam's apples bobbing, restraining their emotions. Su Xing looked at this small tea house. Regardless of who they were, everyone was hungry like a wolf. Star generals. Even if they did not have the qualifications to contract with this kind of legend, they heard that killing a star general could also be a great supplement, even allowing them to enter Maiden Mountain. The green-haired girl's elegant legs bounced, drinking wine with one hand and holding a stick in the other. Her appearance was undisciplined, seemingly as if she did not care a single bit. Hi, could that young lord fill this pot of wine for me? The maiden raised her empty wine pot, drunkenly smiling at Su Xing. She threw the pot over and Su Xing caught it. He was speechless. Seeing her hold a stick in one hand and love wine this much, was it possible she was Wu Song? Su Xing thought, and he filled it for her. Monk Wine and Meat abruptly laughed out loud, and the nervous atmosphere where anything could happen at any moment was completely eliminated following this powerful and free laugh. Monk Wine and Meat was not stupid, and he looked at the young lady in front of him calmly. That leisurely and calm attitude showed he knew that she must have concealed some kind of trick she was self-confident of. Perhaps she had some benefactor. Monk Wine and Meat looked at Su Xing's table, cupping his fist. This benefactor really can play a joke. How would a star general ever concede herself? If she truly did concede, then we very much cannot afford to offend her. The other cultivators promptly nodded in praise, and everyone sat down as if nothing had happened. Would your benefactor like to have a taste of this poor Taoist's pot of simmer-fried knife cutlets? Sure. The girl smiled. When Su Xing saw this, he returned the bottle gourd to her. Thanks. The girl was somewhat drunk, looking at Su Xing with hazy eyes. This girl is very bold, Wu Xingjie said in a low voice. She's a star general? Su Xing asked. The knowledge star shook her head. She could not use think then act lest she expose herself. She is this calm and undaunted. Regardless of whether it is true or false, other people would be somewhat afraid of the consequences. I did not expect there would be such a frivolous sister. Oh. Su Xing looked pensively. Everyone proceeded to resume their former manner, but their gazes incessantly wandered to the green-haired girl's graceful and delicate body, the beautiful and satiny legs underneath her skirt. The people watching began to stir. Another moment passed, and several more groups of people successively hurried to Whistling Wind Mountain. A crowd of 500 to 600 were at the foot of the mountain, and among them was a dazzling sect riding on a patch of green cloud. They wore black robes, grasped flying swords with jade necklaces around their heads. After this group appeared, the initially relaxed 100 cultivators one by one became nervous and uneasy, the atmosphere somewhat agitated. The big cloud descended to the ground, and more than 50 star cultivators unexpectedly appeared. All the cultivators' faces immediately were somewhat uncomfortable. Yet another bunch that overestimates their own capabilities. The leader was an old man with hair that went past his knees. He wore a crown of lapis lazuli, his expression sharp. When he saw the 500 to 600 star cultivators, he could not help but be somewhat annoyed. Su Xing noted his cultivation was at Galaxy Middle Stage. This was the highest cultivation level on Whistling Wind Mountain, so it was no wonder he was so haughty. You scattered star cultivators, I do not know which small sects ran here, but it is best for you to tactfully depart for this kind of matter as plundering the birth outline. 3. As swords do not have eyes, this is to avoid injuring all you fellows. At the old man's side was a female cultivator wearing a blue skirt that spoke. At that time it would be hard to say. All the black-clothed cultivators exerted their magic energy, and Whistling Wind Mountain's atmosphere condensed. A few cultivators with lower-grade cultivations instantly turned and left, but the majority of the star cultivators remained where they were, quite irked as they looked at this crowd of black-clothed cultivators. Regardless of life and death, rely on fate and good luck. Riches and honor absolutely will not save people. There is no second chance if we miss this once-in-a-100-year opportunity, so what carelessness is there to be afraid of? A male cultivator's heroism was in the clouds. His declaration received a right from everyone. Right, Mies? Monk Wine and Meat abruptly cursed. A smile appeared across his whole face. Ancestor Chingy, why have even you come? Monk Wine and Meat, sorry, I did not recognize you. Ancestor Chingy had very good etiquette even though Monk Wine and Meat's cultivation was lower than his. Indeed, this senior monk of the Blue Jewel Temple was capable of monstrous abilities, and Ancestor Chingy did not wish to offend him any further. The Black Clothes School is just 500 li outside of Whistling Wind Mountain. Are we not welcome to come? It would be better for us to join hands. How about it? This way is very good. Ancestor Chingy nodded. Go over there and chat. He pointed to a corner, and several disciples unfolded Immortals' tables, placing fine liquor and delicacies upon them. Monk Wine and Meat was very delighted, devouring these without a trace of politeness. The two began to quietly say a few things, and Su Xing did not mind. Seeing the overcrowded Whistling Wind Mountain, there was already much disharmony. Thinking back to the battle for the birth outline a month ago, he could not help but lament that he was unclear on who the Liangshan maiden was, but this method of sowing dissension was indeed superb. The birth outline was the second phase of the Maiden Mountain Star Duels, and it was the most crucial phase. This phase would start when the number of crimson stars in the sky exceeded half the total. This type of starting indication would be a splendid light that would descend onto that pillar of heaven and earth of Maiden Mountain. Afterwards, 108 chests would shoot in all directions. 6. These chests were bright and multicolored and extremely gorgeous. Because of the demon beasts, demon weapons and the like transporting them, the destination of transport was reportedly at the ends of the world. In addition, during this transportation process, the Star Generals needed to plunder these chests. Inside these chests was hidden every sort of rare goods in Liangshan continent, from gold, treasures, and precious stones to artifacts, magic weapons, and even astral treasures. Each and every kind of materials were included, but especially those pertaining to advancing the grade of the Star General's star weapons. Some of these approached materials from legend, and prospectors could only rely on the birth outline chest to obtain them. The Star Generals wanted to refine their star weapons to even higher grades without the possibility of arming their Star Master to the teeth, so the importance of this birth outline went without saying. The transported chests of the birth outline altogether were divided into the 3 ranks of Earthly Fiend, Heavenly Spirit, and Purple Star. The higher the grade of the transported chest, the more powerful the demon beast transporting it. However, the things inside the chest would also be better. As far as Star Generals were concerned, the most important birth treasure outline was inside the Purple Star grade chest. Reportedly, it was not known within which generation, but there previously was someone that obtained from within the birth outline chest a life-extending immortality peach. 7. That threw the entire Liangshan into a frenzy. The current birth outline not only was a contest of a Star General against another Star General, it was also a struggle between every large sect and scattered star cultivator. As long as there was that little bit of ambition or vanity, people would not miss this feast. This many star cultivators wanting to get a share of the profits is actually somewhat disagreeable. Shi Yuan said directly. Su Xing indifferently said, if only the chest this time was of heavenly spirit grade. In the 1 month since the birth outline opened, Su Xing and Wu Xinjie relied on the flight path of the multicolored light to judge on more than one occasion the position of where it had come to a stop to plunder the chest. Unfortunately, up until now, they had opened 5 chests, and all were the not-so-troublesome at all earthly fiend rank. What they obtained for the most part was gold, purple gold and such. The sole exceptional items were more than a dozen liang of relic blade sand and 2 pieces of falling mercury crystal. They were still off by 1 piece to refine Wu Xinjia's heaven-concealing star fan to 1 star. Another while passed, then a cultivator began to yell, "It's coming!" Shwa shwa shwa. The cultivators in the crowded room immediately rode their swords if they were able to, laid in wait if they were able to, and the tea club very quickly was left with few people. Su Xing looked at that green-haired girl still intoxicated in good wine, and he could not help laughing. Su Xing and the rest rose and walked out the door. Boarding the wind-swayed raft into the sky, he glanced at the black-clothed school, and they also unfolded their green cloud. From far away, they saw a dazzling radiance, a sparkling silver, exceptionally glaring. "It's a heavenly spirit grade birth outline." Shi Yuan gazed into the distance, pleasantly surprised as she spoke. "I wonder whether or not there will be a birth treasure outline, 9, this time." And Su Wen said, "I fear the chest this time will not be that simple." Su Xing saw the black-clothed school's people already spread their people into a formation. Ancestor Qingyi was also very red in the face from looking at the heavenly spirit grade chest. The closer the treasure light, the defender transporting the birth outline also entered the eyes of everyone. That was a shockingly long line of troops, following a tremendous demon bird carrying the case on its back, and the surroundings also had 100 flocks of birds. Numerous and close together, they were just like a white cloud. As the birth outline was increasingly close, who would not think first of profiting off the first person who acted? The competition of plundering the birth outline was one of patience. Finally, the first one unable to endure any further made a move, and several sword artifacts went over to pound it. The demon bird flock scattered in fright, and the 100 demon birds guarding it began to frantically attack the surrounding people. Then, ray after ray of radiant light soared to kill. The demon birds spat out silver light, and mingling together with the 100 flying swords. The silver light was incomparably sharp, a blade that ripped open space. Many star cultivators' defenses were shredded just as if they were paper bits. The ones with the lower cultivation, the most inferior artifacts, were the first to be incapable of supporting themselves. The star cultivators that came to rob and kill all had objectives. They could not possibly let low-grade star cultivators take possession of a convenience, and waiting until the dead ones died, the escaping ones escaped, only then would they exert their own powers. Lay down the heavenly green fatal blow array. 10, Ancestor Qingyi shouted, and 12 dark green flying swords mobilized. The galaxy middle stage cultivator's skill was extraordinary, as the 12 flying swords were like an unstoppable force, immediately breaking the silver light. The huge demon bird carrying the birth outline was known as the Scarlet Crane. 11. Its entire body had flames that madly swelled, and with a long cry, its fire wings were released. Flames like unsheathed sharp swords shot in every which direction. 56 star cultivators screamed. Their chests had been run through, and the black-clothed school made their formation. Monk wine and meat also could no longer sit to the side. Linking together seals, the Vajra staff was thrown out. The staff was shrouded in a Buddhist light, and the flames were dispersed one after another. Then it attacked the Scarlet Crane. The tremendous bird opened its beak, and a fire snake shot out. Hey! Monk wine and meat's entire body was covered in gold light, and it was not known what ability he used to firmly block the fire snake. Ancestor Qingyi struck hand seals, forming the 12 flying swords into a sword array to kill it. Upon seeing this, the bottom disciples lowered their pressure, immediately reorganizing their array. The Scarlet Crane suddenly incited fire wings, the gigantic waves of fire burning everyone present, making Whistling Wind Mountain's trees burn to ash. Ancestor Qingyi threw out that green cloud artifact to block this calamity for his disciples, at the same time shouting, "Other fellows, if you wish to cooperate, we can divide this birth outline equally. If you wish to loot a burning house, do not blame me for being ruthless." These words of Ancestor Chingy's plainly were said to those few high-grade star cultivators who delayed entering the fray until all the others were exhausted so they could profit from others. Ancestor Chingy's tone was emphasized specifically as he stared at Su Xing's group. "Young master, shall we go?" Lin Yingmei asked. "I alone will be enough. I don't need to waste you all on this kind of matter. You'd better wait until a purple star-grade chest appears again." Su Xing currently still did not want to inadvertently warn the enemy. "I see Senior seems to not need me to set out." Su Xing flew somewhere not far from him. This fellow truly can tell jokes. Yet, the Heavenly Spirit grade birthday outline is such a good thing to plunder. Ancestor Chingy said grimly. Just at this time, the scarlet crane cried out loudly. Its entire body's wings became flames, and 100 firebirds immediately appeared. "That is also true." Su Xing tossed out the heaven sword, slashing towards the scarlet crane. Just during the time everyone was plundering and killing the fiery scarlet crane, the green-haired girl in the tea club made a perfectly contented belch. She tipsily walked out, actually exposing a crafty smile as she stared at the battle in the sky. The black-clothed schools formed a fatal blow-great array. Green swords shot into and filled the sky, and the firebirds were dispersed one after the other. Su Xing's heaven sword suffered an injury at Stone Tablet City. This nebula magic treasure already split open, and although its aura steeply declined, its remaining strength still made Ancestor Chingy and Monk Wine and Meat endlessly shocked. The scarlet crane received the heaven sword slash, immediately crying out. The flames that it spared no effort to shoot out of its body transformed into an immense net of fire. This demon beast was of the 5th rank, and everyone did not dare to touch the fire net it controlled. The cultivators below were doomed, and in the 100 meters the net of fire covered, a few star cultivators that ran too late were immediately turned to ashes. Many of Black-Clothed School's disciples were among them. Ancestor Chingy grimaced in pain when he saw it. The Black-Clothed School in Southern Yu Kingdom was only a small sect, and these casualties were hard to bear. Ancestor Chingy's 16 flying swords then attacked the scarlet crane's true fire. Su Xing at this time did not dare be careless, for a 5th-rank demon beast could not be neglected. Releasing the earth shield to stop the blaze, he also controlled the heaven sword to go slash. Under the assault of 100 cultivators, the scarlet crane's blaze was increasingly weak. Just at this time, a fire cloud 100 li away combusted and fell. Unexpectedly, it was another heavenly spirit rank birth outline that just was transported from here. The attention of the cultivators that were robbing and killing the scarlet crane immediately were drawn to that fire cloud, and staring at it, it surprisingly was a scarlet dragon. The scarlet crane and scarlet dragon were fire-type demon beasts. The scarlet crane was killed from every direction, and when the firelight exploded, it attracted the not-too-distant scarlet dragon. Su Xing looked and could not help but sink. Originally, he was unable to find a heavenly spirit grade birth outline, and luckily this time, 2 have come. Fellows, immediately kill this scarlet crane first. Ancestor Chingy shouted loudly, throwing out a long ruler. The ruler rolled out a green light that went to strike down the scarlet crane. Su Xing knew how serious things were, and he released the blood rain pot. Even if Monk Wine and Meat loudly read an incantation, he still tossed it at the same time. "This is bad." Lin Yingmei's expression tightened. "Let's first go help young master stop the scarlet dragon," Wu Xinjie immediately said. Yan Yizhen and Lin Yingmei took the lead to go attack it. The scarlet dragon's speed was exceedingly quick, leaping over in the blink of an eye. This place was a deep basin without cultivators. The 2 girls completely lacked restraint, and the Arctic Star Spear sallied forth. Lin Yingmei and Yan Yizhen each forged ahead. The majestic star coldly shouted, and the Arctic Star Spear was brought down, its spearhead flickering with a cold light. A chilly wind immediately gusted up. When the scarlet dragon saw this, its eyes showed a fearful expression, but an ominous glint immediately flashed. Greatly releasing red light from its body, its mouth issued a severe hiss, spitting out a sea of flames. The vicinity around Lin Yingmei's whole body immediately was surrounded in a sea of fire. In the fire dragon's hiss, flames rolled out incessantly. After that, it scraped out a more than 10 zhang high immense sea of fire that aggressively approached from both sides to directly press down on Lin Yingmei. Lin Yingmei disdainfully chuckled coldly. She raised the Arctic Star spear with both hands, the spear's power lightly splitting. During the cold light's flash, a sparkling and translucent ice wall suddenly appeared. The cold light on it twinkled endlessly, all of a sudden rigidly blocking the Scarlet Dragon's sea of fire. In addition, just at this time, the faraway Scarlet Dragon's figure suddenly flashed, becoming a red light that made a beeline for Lin Yingmei. Its speed was quick, spanning a distance of more than 20 zhang in the blink of an eye, arriving nearby in front of Lin Yingmei. At the same time, its 2 claws were simultaneously raised, tearing towards the girl. A silhouette then blocked in front of it. The skillful star closed the distance in a flash. The violently shot red light of her fists unexpectedly slammed against the Scarlet Dragon's claws, and the flames soared into the sky. The star energy in Yan Yizhen's whole body immediately became a self-protective barrier. With a step, she crossed over, already reaching the Scarlet Dragon's upper part. Her fists wildly danced. Yan Yizhen was just like a phantom, her silhouette all of a sudden indistinct, the next moment disappearing from sight. A sharp whistle came through the surrounding air. The dust in the air were rolled up layer upon layer by this high-speed wind pressure that ripped apart the atmosphere. Revolving all around the Scarlet Dragon's massive body, left and right fists endlessly pounded it, but it actually did not carry a trace of sound. The Scarlet Dragon violently attacked incessantly, yet that did not have the slightest effect. Suddenly, at this time, Lin Yingmei's figure appeared before the Scarlet Dragon's eyes. Slashing with her cold spear, she directly hit the Scarlet Dragon's pupil. The spear light bit everything to dust as it entered the eye, and the Scarlet Dragon bellowed. Unexpectedly, a lump of flame burst out and completely shrouded the two where they stood. Wu Xinjie, Shi Yuan and Ensuwen were startled, hastily rushing over to support. Wu Xinjie tossed out talismans, and Shi Yuan quickly shot out her hoodwinking flying claws. Ensuwen took out a golden pill, and the pill transformed into a watery liquid that went to press against the blaze. On the other side, the Scarlet Crane was finally unable to support itself under the violent assault of everyone. Ancestor Qingyi's sword art executed, and a green light turned into 10,000 swords that penetrated the Scarlet Crane. The Scarlet Crane made a mournful sound. The treasure chest on its body then was thrown off from its back and fell. After that, the Scarlet Crane's body swelled into a tremendous fire that enveloped the entire Whistling Wind Mountain inside a conflagration. Soon afterwards, it was cut short, and not even its soul was left behind. When every cultivator saw the treasure chest, they immediately squabbled for it. Flying sword abilities wildly smashed towards the treasure chest, and several of the nearest star cultivators had not even touched the treasure chest when they lost their lives. As far as plundering the birth outline was concerned, compared with the danger of killing and robbing the demon beast transporting the birth outline, the current danger had only just begun. All fellows calm. Ancestor Qingyi wielded his cultivation at the highest levels and shouted. He pressured everyone present. Who of the 100 cultivators would bother to oblige him? In case this treasure chest was swallowed by someone, they had to be willing to spit it back out. Ancestor Qingyi sneered, then just do not blame Ancestor for being ruthless. Disciples. The black-clothed school disciples shouted orders, and sword lights danced in the breeze. Every one of the scattered star cultivators successively used their unique skills, filling Whistling Wind Mountain with countless sword slights in an instant. Su Xing wrinkled his brow, and he flew his body to the side. Upon seeing this, Monk Wine and Meat and Ancestor Qingyi hastily flew towards the treasure chest. Ancestor Qingyi wielded his cultivation at the highest, using a sword art to go kill at Su Xing. Fellow, it is better to let Ancestor divide things. Monk Wine and Meat staff was also thrown over. Su Xing controlled his divine intent, and the Heaven Sword and Earth Shield obstructed their attacks. Just at this time, the chest's treasure lights suddenly disappeared from their sight. The currently battling cultivators one after another went blank, shouting in amazement. They saw a green-haired girl leisurely roll away the treasure chest with a roll of her hand. The girl's body techniques were extremely strange, just like an illusion that unhurriedly disappeared from sight. "I have received this thing." The girl turned her head and made a crooked smile. More than a dozen flying swords shot towards her, but the girl disappeared in a flash, reappearing 100 meters above and away. Everyone was stunned. That is the inferior star living goddess of lightning. 3. She sure enough is a star general. Monk Wine and Meat's whole body trembled in anger. Chase? Ancestor Chingy chased after her. How could he be resigned to letting others pick up the treasure chest he spent so much blood for? He no longer paid attention to the other heavenly spirit chest 100 li away. Su Xing also wanted to go chase, but seeing that side he still could only give up. The speed of the inferior star living goddess of lightning when she moved in that instant was too quick, so chasing would not be that relaxing. Su Xing was just flying over to there when he saw more than a dozen star cultivators raise their swords, wanting to seize the opportunity to take a share of the profits. Su Xing's brow wrinkled, and then he blocked in front of them. How could these star cultivators be Su Xing's opponent? Immediately, they were defeated and escaped without a trace. Lin Yingmei and Yan Yizhen were currently besieging the Scarlet Dragon. The Scarlet Dragon's firelight started to wane, and when Su Xing saw this, he struck hand seals as he read an incantation. Blooming water divine thunder bubbled forth, dancing between his fingers. Along with Su Xing condensing it even more, this lightning also was increasingly concentrated. In the blink of an eye, Su Xing's 5 fingers were all purple-colored thunderlight. Su Xing released it, and from his 5 fingers shot 5 bolts of purple thunder that firmly grabbed the Scarlet Dragon. This was exactly the first blooming water divine thunder immortal's technique that he learned from the 5 spirits' law heavenly book, 5 fingers dragon capture. Launching the blooming water divine thunder from his fingers, it was just like a large hand that was even more mighty than when he fired normal divine thunder, and it could constrict his opponents. Lin Yingmei and Yan Yizhen saw that the Scarlet Dragon had been bound and used their yellow rank unique skills without the slightest hesitation. Lan Blizzard Knights and Swallow Flash Samsara. Under the pincer attack of the two, the Scarlet Dragon also turned into a pile of sparks that faded away. The heavenly spirit treasure chest fell, and Su Xing bluntly drew it into his sack. "Young lord, what about the other?" Wu Xinjie asked. Su Xing was helpless. That girl from before seems to be the living goddess of lightning. It was taken away by her. Living goddess of lightning? Lin Yingmei stared blankly. The ranked 104th inferior star living goddess of lightning Wang Ding 5 unexpectedly took away the heavenly spirit chest from the countless star cultivators. This was too amazing. The speed of the living goddess of lightning flash jump 6 is very swift. To be capable of high-speed movement, to hide from pursuers is very simple. Yan Yizhen flatly said. Wu Xinjie agreed with the skillful star's words. They will not be able to catch up to her. We had better return first. Saying this, the knowledge star saw this wound-filled whistling wind mountain and sighed. This still only is a remote location in the southern Yu Kingdom, so I did not expect to have this much trouble. The situation of the purple star grade birth outline is grim. Now, in all parts of the Azure Dragon territory, all currently were staging the drama of a battle for the birth outline. On a boundless ravine, an immense demon beast bearing a heavenly spirit grade treasure chest currently was violently attacking. A beautiful and alluring girl in palace dress was facing off with it, her hand grasping a long axe. Firelight curled on the axe, engraved with a fire kite. 7, twinkling with 3 stars. Standing at the girl's side was an additional elegant man. His surroundings were already piled full with more than 100 corpses black as coal. It was unexpected for this place to have this many star cultivators come trouble eye of the palace. The man was precisely the second prince, Zhao Heng. He wiped his hands, smiled and asked, "Qing can you settle it?" The girl nodded, raising her long axe. With a sharp and mournful howl, the entire prairie's temperature suddenly dropped. An ice-cold, imposing aura enveloped the entire space in a flash, and sparkling and translucent ice crystals suddenly appeared in the air, rapidly expanding in every direction, also dispersing a terrifying cold air. That immense demon beast immediately spat out a frigid ice breath. Zhao Heng stared blankly. This demon beast's whole body turned a blue color. The ice breath it spat out seemed simple, but when it came across skin, the victim's mental state would be in piercing pain. This type of piercing pain would completely influence a person's instinct. It proved itself to be a fifth demon beast. The girl already rapidly forced it into a limit. The air's moisture turned to ice crystals in a flash, let alone the flesh and blood of human bodies? This kind of demon beast very much was valiant. The girl sneered, the axe head curled up with a fiery dragon, 3 dazzling fire stars flickered. A tiny demon beast spits out an ice breath and dares to be impudent in front of the palace? The girl held up the axe head, hacking with it mid-slash. The axe head's fiery dragon roared, immediately engulfing the entire valley. The ignited raging blaze was more and more roaring, as if the entire valley had turned into a coal pan, a terrifying anomaly. Yellow rank style, 100,000 fire dragons rapid kill. 9. The huge beast unexpectedly became ashes. Zhao Heng nodded in satisfaction, revealing a slight smile. With this kind of powerful strength, even if it was a 5 tigers general, they would not be an opponent, he thought. What about Yuana? Only when Su Xing turned his head back did he discover the thief's star had disappeared. I even saw little sister Shi Yuan here just now. And Su Wen covered her mouth. The thief's star was a concealment expert. If she wanted to noiselessly leave, that was not something that would be hard for her. It seems she has gone to chase after the living goddess of lightning. Lin Yingmei answered. Su Xing pulled his hair. Could it be that Shi Yuan wanted to snatch back the heavenly spirit chest? The flea on a drum actually is very formidable in pursuits, so she should be able to find the living goddess of lightning's trail. Wu Xinjie blinked. Everyone waited for a while, and not long after, the thief's star returned, as expected. But it seemed she hung her head dispiritedly. That living goddess of lightning is too much for me. It was very difficult to find her, and then she unexpectedly played hide and seek with me. She probably had been unbearably angered by the inferior star's flash jump. Shi Yuan puffed her cheeks as she clung to Su Xing's arm, acting like a spoiled child as she sought comfort. Wu Xinjie dipped her forehead. Don't vent, let's quickly leave. Powerful enemies again will be here in a moment. The wind swayed, raft ascended and flew away from the southern Yu Kingdom. Flying into the sky, Su Xing noticed there were not any places worth going to. In the big Liangshan, there unexpectedly was not any place to stop over. Young master, you should find an immortal's abode to practice in ease. Lin Yingmei opened her mouth. The indifferent Yan Yizhen nodded. Master's current cultivation is still a bit too shallow. Su Xing was still at Nebula late stage right now. Although he had obtained Yan Qing's star energy after he contracted her, apparently even though his star energy was filled to the brim, his star energy was still a cloud that had difficulty becoming a river. Every realm of cultivation, from one realm to another, for a star cultivator would become extremely difficult to attain the later the realm. Su Xing now had reached a bottleneck, and Su Wen had no way out for him despite making some pills. Didn't Big Brother obtain a purple star jade pendant? And Su Wen said, Su Xing, actually, I always had a question I've been dying to ask you. Shi Yuan hesitated. Su Xing smiled. What, could it be you're afraid of hurting me? Ask away. Shi Yuan looked at her sisters and mumbled, We have been with young master this long, but could it be that young master does not have any close relatives? Turning the words, Shi Yuan stuck out her cute tongue. Su Xing, don't you be angry, it's just that you look as if you're homeless. Being able to contract the majestic star, Shi Yuan always thought Su Xing perhaps had some exceptional status. In this world, besides all of you, I don't have close relatives. Su Xing shook his head. Shi Yuan felt sorry for Su Xing, somewhat regretful that she brought this topic up. This isn't something you can't mention. Su Xing smiled and stroked her face. His heart slightly sighed, for he did not have a permanent home in Liangshan. Being all over the place also was not a solution, and he always felt he really seemed to be missing something. Perhaps this just was Su Xing always looking for a sense of belonging? This was something he should think about it properly. Right now, the Great Liang Dynasty, and even the entire Azure Dragon territory, was currently looking for the Purple Thunder monster. It was not too possible for Su Xing to return to the city, so he found a remote mountain cave and then entered it. While Su Xing controlled his flying sword, he assumed an immortal's abode stance. It seemed he at long last would not be that miserable. The girls could not help but want to smile, feeling their young master truly was melancholy and moody enough. Moving out the heavenly spirit grade chest, Su Xing then controlled his star energy to open it, and everyone was filled with anticipation. 2. A silver light twinkled. The heavenly spirit grade birth outline was amazing as expected. A pile of dazzling items even more in quantity and even more precious than an earthly fiend grade, there were a few drug ingredients, crystals and stones that need not be mentioned. What made Lin Yingmei happy was that there was one piece of daybreak frost and snow essence required for her to refine her second star, and there was also the one piece of falling mercury crystal that Wu Xinjie just happened to be short of in order to be complete. Besides these, inside was unexpectedly an additional feather garment. Surprisingly, a look showed that it was a small bodice with a very tender fragrance. Su Xing could not help but pick it up to sniff it. 3. Besides the indifferent Yan Yizhen, the beautiful maidens could not help but be red in the face, rebuking him, "Young lord, how can you be like this?" Su Xing did not want to be a pervert, but it was just that the fragrance of this bodice was extremely splendid, causing him to be unable to resist stuffing his nose into it and sniffing. If it was put onto anyone's body, then that was a beautiful scene. Su Xing felt his beastly blood boil thinking about it. This is a snow-winged cicada bodice. 5. Yan Yizhen explained. Why would there be this sort of thing inside the chest? Is it very important for a star general? Su Xing asked. Yan Yizhen calmly answered, this is an astral tool. Not only is it unbreachable by water and fire, it can make the amount of time a star general can spend fighting in the air even longer. Which one of you wants to change? Su Xing chuckled. The girls' cheeks were slightly red, and they shook their heads. Little E? This slave servant does not need this. Yan Yizhen replied very seriously. Little sis Suwen? Little sister thanks big brother for his kindly feelings. And Suwen bashfully refused. Yuan, this young lady is a robber and does not like the color white hay. Sure, Yuan was without a choice. The knowledge star Wu Xinjie faked embarrassment. Xinjie likes this bodice, however, if young lord personally helps Xinjie change. 6. Xinjie. The girls were stunned by her bold statement. All right. Su Xing was not a pure and innocent little boy. How could he turn down this sort of happy occasion? Wu Xinjie's expression was very charming, and she really began to undress. This, Lin Yingmei's brows wrinkled, nevertheless saying nothing. Turning her head away so she could not look, and Suwen found it embarrassing as she turned her gaze. Shi Yuan was very curious, and Yan Yizhen was even more incomparably calm. Taking off her jacket, she revealed a blue bodice and snow-white skin delicate enough to break if blown on. Exquisitely smooth and tender, Wu Xinjie lowered her head and shyly bit her lip. This appearance was on another level of alluring. Young lord certainly must feel tenderness toward Xinjie. 7. Lin Yingmei scowled. Su Xing reached out his hand and drew Wu Xinjie into his embrace. The girl's delicate body was on his chest, her high mountains in conflict. Following her tender skin, his hands actually were about to undo the knot to her bodice. Don't. Wu Xinjie finally uttered, having still been defeated. Undressing and being changed in front of her sisters, even if she was the knowledge star, she was still very bashful. Lin Yingmei is still best suited for this snow-winged cicada bodice. Su Xing had already known she would say this. He could not help but kiss her cheek and drape clothes over her. When Wu Xinjie was revealing herself, Su Xing felt that his body burned in lust. Lin Yingmei did not act shy at all as she reached out her hand and received it. Afterwards, everyone teased each other for a bit. Wu Xinjie seized the chance to refine her heaven-concealing star fan to 1 star, and the sky at this time was already dark. Having toiled for a day, all the girls were very tired, one after the other entering the star nest to rest. The immortal's abode was cold and cheerless all of a sudden. Su Xing cultivated for a bit, actually not sleepy in the least. He raised his head and watched the bright moon in the sky, and then he was met directly with the summit. Reclining on it, moonlight bathed his body, unexpectedly with a sort of fantastic feeling. Heaven and earth were calm, and there was only the one man. Young master. Beside him appeared a warm presence, and Su Xing did not have to turn his head to know who it was. Lin Yingmei appeared, clear, cold and refined in the moonlight. She had lost a bit of her heroic air, but gained a slight charm. Is young master moody? This appearance of Su Xing's made Lin Yingmei somewhat worried. It's nothing. It's just that it's almost the 15th of the Mid-Autumn Festival, so I was of the mind to admire the moon. Su Xing smiled. What's the 15th Mid-Autumn Festival? Lin Yingmei was blank. Su Xing shook his head, not answering. A moment later, Lin Yingmei then knelt nearby, watching the unattainable heaven-raising pillar that was the Maiden Mountain. Out of the corner of her eye, she again looked at Su Xing, quietly guarding from nearby, not saying a word. With regards to the first girl that signed a contract with him when he came to Liangshan, Su Xing's heart always had a kind of indescribable feeling. He customarily drew Lin Yingmei's shoulder towards him. In the army, this was a very close comrade-in-arms gesture. Lin Yingmei clearly felt the change in Su Xing's heart, for she did not struggle. A long time afterwards, Lin Yingmei whispered, "Young master, could you help your servant change into that snow-winged cicada bodice?" 9. Su Xing went blank, looking at Lin Yingmei with surprise, and the girl buried her head away from him. All right. Su Xing naturally would not decline. Lin Yingmei turned her body away, and her upper garment very quickly was peeled off. The icy luster of gems pervaded her back that was without even a single scar. Within the light wind, Su Xing clearly felt Lin Yingmei's body tremble ever so slightly. When he undid the knot to her bodice, her shuddering changed to a rigidity. "I'll really help you change?" Su Xing made certain. A reply of consent quiet as a mosquito. Su Xing felt that the Lin Yingmei and he tonight both alike became somewhat strange, and he did not know whether or not his mood influenced her. Su Xing calmed down his mind. Despite looking at that naked upper body of Lin Yingmei, he could not help but feel somewhat crazy in love. Bringing that bodice to cover her front, the tips of his fingers at this time touched that ample softness, and Lin Yingmei let out a shallow moan. "Your servant is young master's chamberlain. Regardless of whether young master is or is not homeless, your servant does not care." Lin Yingmei suddenly said, "In the case that young master is willing, you can look upon your servant as your family." Su Xing shook, smiled, then kissed her pure white neck, tenderly answering, "Of course you are precisely my family." Lin Yingmei moaned, not knowing whether Su Xing kissed too sensitively or if his words stirred the softness of her heart. The second day when Su Xing rose, he walked into the living room and found the beautiful girls already were up. They gazed at Su Xing, then at the Lin Yingmei keeping watch from afar, her face ambiguous. Su Xing pretended he did not see, and he saw a pile of tokens, flags and such were arranged on the stone table, curiously asking, "What are you all doing?" "Sister Xinjie is helping Big Brother choose a sect." And Suwen charmingly replied, "A sect? Considering our current situation, Xinjie proposes to first use the purple star token to create an immortal's abode. Because it requires spirit vessels, as a result, we must enter a sect." "Young lord, you will not oppose, will you?" Wu Xinjie blinked. Su Xing agreed. Last night, he was just thinking over this matter. He had gotten hold of the purple star grade outlaw writ for more than a month and actually never used it. This was too wasteful. Besides the birth outline that already began, after more months passed by, the purple star grade birth outline would appear. At that time, the entire Azure Dragon territory would flare up. Powerful sects would all turn out in full strength, and according to his current situation, he simply did not have the chance to get involved in the purple star grade this time. But I seem to already have been listed as someone to arrest. Su Xing was for lack of a better option. Due to the opposing energy between the devil-suppressing steel and the ghost's god's bane, two great sects were looking for him, so entering a sect was easier said than done. Shi Yuan proudly revealed every sort of prop that was stacked up on the table like a mountain. Su Xing, just leave this to this young lady. This young lady was wandered all over Liangshan, so the tokens of every sect are here as they should. 10. The Knowledge Star currently is seeking for Master One that already will not delay the current birth outline plundering and will not delay Master's practice. In addition, that sect can let Master earn for this reason without bringing trouble. Yen Yizhen apathetically started to talk. It sounded like they wanted to kill 3 birds with 1 arrow. It can't be this perfect? Su Xing smiled. The Knowledge Star has already found one. Lin Yingmei said. The sect Wu Xinjie chose was known as the Four Style School. This sect was located in the Azure Dragon Territory's most remote eastern cooling kingdom refining prefectures, Flaming Eastern Island. 2. It could even be said to be cut off from the rest of the world. The Four Style School in the ancient past was once a reputedly illustrious great school. For the champion 9 dragons, 3, of Azure Dragon Territory legend, he took possession of a seat in public office, and was called by others as the Refining Dragon. After the star duels began, Azure Dragon Territory's cards were shuffled, and the champion 9 dragons was the first to be overthrown. For all kinds of reasons, the Four Style School declined. However, a camel starving to death was bigger than a horse. This Four Style School somewhat still had the leftover champion 9 dragons. In the Azure Dragon Territory, he still had a bit of military glory. To give Su Xing the beautiful spirit vessels the Four Style School occupied could not be any more suitable. The other important reason why Wu Xinjie considered the Four Style School was because the Four Style School was a school adept at tool refinement. Su Xing had slightly entered the world of tool refinement, and he had many materials on hand. To forge the Heavenly Spirit Earthly Fiend Purple Star 5-element sword in the future, he would need tool refinement methods. This would help Su Xing solve the Purple Star Outlaw Writ together at once, and 2, also could conveniently give him mastery in tool refinement. To go from here to Cooling Kingdom is approximately a 10-day route. Although it is somewhat long, we can conveniently plunder a few birth outlines along the road. Wu Xinjie actively said, for the time being, we must still prepare for the important appearance of the Purple Star grade birth outline. Is entry into this kind of ancient sect possible? And Suan asked. Wu Xinjie smiled. Shi Yuan took out a jade pendant. This jade pendant was carved with a fantastic design that formed the word refine, appearing like a portrait at first glance. This was precisely the Four Style School's token. 2 years prior, Shi Yuan received this from a skeleton she found exploring a labyrinth. Besides this token, there were several jade strips, a flying sword, a red pearl and 100 talismans. Su Xing took the token. After his divine intent responded, some information about the token entered his ocean of consciousness, and then he looked at those jade strips. These jade strips recorded this token owner's name and his entire life. His name was Yuqi Qingshan, and what made Su Xing surprised was that he was unexpectedly a great tool refinement scholar. This flying sword is so beautiful, did he forge it? And Su Wen praised it. The flying sword was approximately 3 chi long, 1 finger wide, its entire body refined from crimson jade and treasures. Engraved into it were veined patterns like flame, and stimulating his magic energy, they saw dark red spell runes revolve around the flying sword. The sword's edge was brightly lit, its hilt had a pearl, and engraved on it were the 4 words, Clinging Fire Star Domain. 5. Could it be this is the clinging fire divine thunder of the Liangshan continent's 5 elements astonishing thunders? Yen Yizhen frowned. That should not be the case. Clinging fire star domain sword, hearing this name, it actually seems to be an astral treasure. Wu Xinjie was not too certain. Astral treasure? The girls were astounded. You have never brought this thing out before, Shi Yuan? Lin Yingmei said in surprise. Shi Yuan stuck out her tongue, but she could not be blamed for this. In these 3 years, the thief star stole from countless ancient tombs and labyrinths, and sometimes, she would steal from under a careless cultivator. In 3 years, she accumulated not much, but not too little, and Shi Yuan could not use artifacts at all anyways. Thus, the majority were completely exhausted being swapped for talismans, travel money and the like, leaving only a few things she felt looked great but were useless. This sword's design was extremely gorgeous, making her love it too much to part with it. It was a pity that this sword was not sharpened, so it could only serve as a decoration. Afterwards, Shi Yuan just forgot about it. Su Xing picked up this clinging fire star domain sword. Sure enough, just as Shi Yuan said, he could only use his divine intent to levitate it in front of him without any way to propel it. Imbuing it with more star energy only made the sword glow even brighter, but there was not any sort of use. This clinging fire star domain sword has had a forbid dance engraved onto it. Wu Xinjie was considered to have some understanding of magic weapons. It seemed the talisman engravings clearly were placed by an adept, and this made the knowledge star somewhat excited. If this was the case, this sword certainly was unmistakably an astral treasure. Su Xing again looked at that red pearl. It was also very ordinary, and imbuing it with star energy only made it let out a dazzling scarlet light. The things the tool refinement scholar brought indeed were elusive. Shi Yuan, if you have anything more, do not forget about it. If it was not for choosing a sect for young lord, this top-notch treasure would have been forgotten by you. Wu Xinjie unhappily smiled. Shi Yuan searched her pockets and shook her head. She really had nothing else. Since forbid dance engravings have been added, the 4-style school should have a way to release it. At that time, we can again think of a solution. Wu Xinjie then again gave Su Xing an explanation of items to pay attention to when he entered the 4-style school. According to the plan the knowledge star composed, Su Xing had best assume the identity of this senior Yuqi Qingshan's apprentice because it seemed from letters that this Yuqi Qingshan left seclusion to find an apprentice with the roots of intelligence. Ever since the Champion 9 Dragons collapsed, the 4-style school was cut off from the rest of the world. Generally, to accept an apprentice, seniors would leave seclusion of their own accord and wander the 4 seas, seeking opportunity, and they did not know why such a great tool refinement scholar would perish within an ancient tomb. In this way, Su Xing would very legitimately become a 4-styles sect disciple. However, he would first have to practice some 4-styles sect entrance secret arts. Those just happened to be recorded inside the token, and relying on the innate gift of Su Xing's absolute sincerity soul technique, within several days, that would not become a problem. Everything was planned to be watertight, and then, Wu Xinjie stood on the wind-swayed raft, looking into the distance at the birth outline starlight of the Maiden Mountain. After the birth outline opened, there appeared every day a light that carried a birth outline. The majority that were robbed and killed first of all needed their positions judged according to these faintly discernible lights. Some birth outlines seemed to be very close, but perhaps they were as far as 10,000 li. To rob and kill for the birth outline, the experts of a majority of sects all used protection techniques for the star masters in their schools. Sometimes, even if a birth outline was seen, they, 6, could only give up. After all, to use their current strength to handle a completely armed sect was very hard without any dominance that could be spoken of. Wu Xinjie took a glance, and the direction of flaming eastern island flashed through her ocean of consciousness. Within the several lights, she locked onto one path among them that would conform. A birth outline there was not within the range of influence of a great sect's power, so everyone then took off in that direction. Rushing to the place where the birth outline would appear, the star cultivators there were not many, perhaps more than 300 people, and the cultivations that were at galaxy stage actually were not few. Su Xing arrived. The 100 star cultivators just looked grim, brimming with hostility as they looked at him. Su Xing lightly smiled, but in his heart, it was actually a cold smile. This time, he was not like how he was last. Stopping over briefly, he immediately turned into an escape light that went far away. Those star cultivators did not relax and actually had sect members use divine intent to lock down the surroundings. At this time, Su Xing used the oneness of heaven and man to then directly conceal himself in a secret place. He might as well be the fisherman that snatches the snipe and clam. The troops escorting the birth outline were revealed. It was a heavenly spirit-rank treasure chest, and the escorts were famed and great. 2 Cyclops jinns, 7, one in front and one in back, carried the chest together, and the surroundings had an additional 16 flying Apsara blood centipedes. 8. Su Xing raised his head and looked, only to see more than a dozen galaxy-stage cultivators release sword art abilities. Several hundred multicolored sword arts formed every kind of sword array, that imposing air seriously ferocious. The flying Apsara blood centipedes in the blink of an eye were down by 4. Every sort of artifact flew out one after the other. In the sky, a multicolored light was on the move, flying a splendid rainbow. Su Xing clicked his tongue. Although there were few people, their strength certainly was far too much more powerful compared to those star cultivators at Whistling Wind Mountain. This Cyclops Jinn was an ancient monster. Surly and unreasoning, it was hard to find a rival. Its one eye released an incandescent light that broke a sword array. The Cyclops Jinn's flesh was like metal, hard as steel, impervious to sword and spear. Those imposing and violent flying swords stabbing onto their bodies only gave off clanging noises as if they were striking stone. The flying Apsara blood centipedes spat out poisonous blood. The blood became swords that splashed and scattered throughout 100 meters. This poison blood was extremely ferocious. For a few cultivators' defensive artifacts melted on contact. The star cultivators who were splashed immediately had their blood poisoned, screaming endlessly. "Kill the centipede first," a star cultivator shouted. Galaxy-stage cultivators' sword arts became essential. 100 flying swords were matchlessly gorgeous, occasionally spiraling and twisting to kill, occasionally cutting from side to side everywhere. The sword array had myriad fluctuations. The sword rainbow broke through the poison blood, and the flying Apsara blood centipedes did not hold out for long before vanishing like smoke. The birth outline escorts were suddenly down to only the 2 Cyclops jinns. The star cultivators thought they had glimpsed hope, their offensive more wild than swelling waters. The Cyclops jinns suddenly dodged, their speed oddly quick. Flashing into the mass of star cultivators, it was just like a small mountain had pressed onto them. The Cyclops jinn's arm waved, and it swept over several dozen meters away like a whip. Weakened star cultivators screamed and became dust and smoke. Galaxy cultivators coordinated the usage of their sword arts for a blocking kill as thousands of talismans just like snowflakes wafting through the entire sky exploded. The Su Xing below watched everything that unfolded above him. His eyes revealed admiration, for this scene really was too spectacular. The Cyclops Jinn radiated a golden light, its arms waving. The single eye released a light that broke through the annoying sword array. The star cultivators that came here had robbed and killed several birth outlines with good coordination, but they did not expect the birth outline escorts this time to be ancient monsters, to be this unreasonable. Flying swords lost the favorable position, and perhaps only martial arts could have an effect. Which cultivator here would have the courage to dare directly face these Cyclops jinns? Gradually, the cultivators' formation began to scatter. Suddenly, a sword light escaped far away, unexpectedly fleeing. Fellow, the others knew from a look that a plunder was no longer possible, successively using every escape technique. The Cyclops jinns roared, the golden light violently shooting and exterminating several cultivators. Several hundred cultivators scattered like birds and beasts, and the Cyclops jinn gave chase. Master, careful. Completely lacking warning, a huge shadow was in his face, a golden light descending. Yen Yizhen flashed out of the star nest, her fists crossed together as she firmly caught this attack. The girl's arms made a circle, soft as running water, and her left and right hands alternated, staggering this power. The remaining Cyclops Jinn carrying the chest on its back bellowed above Su Xing. It deserved the name of Ancient Monster, for Su Xing's oneness of heaven and man was discovered in an instant. The Cyclops Jinn's long arm grabbed at Su Xing. Su Xing opened his 5 fingers. A purple blooming water thunder and lightning that was like a claw captured the Cyclops Jinn. The The Cyclops Jinn loudly cried under the blooming water divine thunder and lightning, but it seemed this did not have any effect. It looked as though they could only rely on martial strength, as expected. A crisp and clear, dazzling cold light appeared. Lin Yingmei coldly shouted and raised her spear, her jet-black hair whipping in the wind. Her cloak rose, and her collar opened wide, vaguely revealing a white bellyband. The Lin Yingmei that changed into the snow-winged cicada bellyband had her body techniques made even faster, as if she was stepping on clouds and mist. Suspended in the air as she battled with the Cyclops Jinn, the Arctic Star spear slashed down again and again, and the Cyclops Jinn's skin that was secure as a city finally revealed wounds. Yan Yizhen timely moved, her fists violently waving and striking. Every strike brought tremors to the Cyclops Jinn, the might unexpectedly not any one bit inferior to the Arctic Star spear. The Cyclops Jinn howled in grief repeatedly, unable to bear the violent attacks of two star maidens as the treasure chest it held aloft with its hands immediately fell down. The Shi Yuan, who had been waiting for a long time, exhibited the excellent body techniques of a robber, rushing towards the treasure chest. She thought of taking the treasure chest, and the treasure chest radiated brilliantly. Shi Yuan released star energy, and then fought against the treasure chest. The Cyclops Jinn was tangled by Lin Yingmei and Yan Yizhen. It cried out continuously, its two arms whirling around, but the two star generals' bodies were light as swallows, relying on their unparalleled star weapons to resist for a short while. The Cyclops Jinn fired a light beam from its eye towards Shi Yuan, which Su Xing blocked with the Earth Shield. The pressure shook the Earth Shield with tremors, a power that was tyrannical. The other Cyclops Jinn that went to disperse the other star cultivators again rushed back, pouncing on Shi Yuan. Su Xing raised both his hands this time, purple lightning hovering about his 10 fingers, a lightning serpent that swelled and contracted. Waving his hands, they released a blooming water divine thunder that looked like claws and teeth. The purple thunder immediately grabbed this Cyclops Jinn, and when Su Xing put his hands together, the lightning claw immediately merged and suddenly released the tips of teeth, purple thunder tearing it apart. The Cyclops Jinn wailed in anguish, yet this ancient monster's eye released a cold light. The nebula magic weapon Earth Shield once again cracked. Su Xing stared, for how could he dare again receive the attack directly? Shi Yuan at this time got rid of the treasure chest's light. Taking up the chest, she advanced under the cover of Ensuwen and Wu Xinjie's protection. These Cyclops Jinn's heads had a divine intent of protecting the birth outline treasure chest carved into them. Seeing the chest had been taken, they madly threw themselves towards Shi Yuan, wanting to bite the girl to pieces then spit out the chest. Su Xing's shark claw hook and blood rain pot simultaneously rose. The shark claw hook grappled onto the pursuit attack of the Cyclops Jinn while the blood rain pot's bloodlight beat the Cyclops Jinn's solid body, but this monster's skin was just like essence gold. The Galaxy Stage artifact blood rain pot had great difficulty piercing through, and he only heard the clanging sound of striking metal. Seeing Su Xing alone stall a Cyclops Jinn, Lin Yingmei and Yan Yizhen accelerated their attack rate. A moment had not passed when the Cyclops Jinn at last was unable to support itself, turning into ash. The last Cyclops Jinn's hair stood on end, releasing a low roar from within its throat, an expression of excessive ruthlessness as it immediately pounced. Its immense body gave people an intensely oppressive feeling. Just this slightly human appearance was enough to scare stiff-crying children, and those two long arms waved. Su Xing had been bolstered by Wu Xinjie's speed is a crucial asset in war, and relying on speed, he finally suppressed the Cyclops Jinn. Hey! A sound that broke the air. Without even a bit of hesitation, Lin Yingmei and Yan Yizhen immediately went for the kill. A chilly and icy light appeared on Yan Yizhen's yin-yang Pisces fists. In the moment her figure swayed, she already was powerfully punching continuously. The Cyclops Jinn's body may have been enormous, but the flexibility of its movements made people gasp in surprise. As an ancient fifth-rank demon type, it always had its own original place. Lin Yingmei silently rushed out, her soldierly figure rolling out a whirlwind where she was. The majestic star's speed already displayed brilliance, and although the Cyclops Jin's two arms were like whips with strikes that vigorously gusted, it was awfully clear that with plentiful combat experience, the effect she received was greatly mitigated. The girl's eyes were filled with detachment, and Lin Yingmei's figure already swept past the Cyclops Jin's side. A cold thread in her hand suddenly appeared and immediately faded away. The Cyclops Jin's stomach had been punctured, had a bloody hole the size of a bowl, and a thick pillar of blood like a fountain rushed into the air. Its tremendous body rocked, then fell on its face where it was. Su Xing also timely released a blooming water divine thunder to interrupt the Cyclops Jin's continuous attacks, and then Suwen and Shi Yuan each took out their destined star weapons to finish it off. While everyone ganged up on it, this monster Cyclops Jin could not help but howl in anguish. This time, a soul flew out, and Shi Yuan then received it. After having plundered and killed several birth outlines, they finally encountered one with a soul. When those fleeing cultivators saw that the Cyclops Jins had been killed, they again flew back. Su Xing had unintentionally tangled with them. Raising the wind-swayed raft, he departed, easily breaking away from them. He arrived at a plateau on a mountain, and only then did Su Xing open the treasure chest. A silver light and a golden light shone, and it was a chest of silver stones. It had cloud patterns, soft and pure. From the ascend a mountain and dive for pearls and the notes, then Su Xing knew this kind of silver stone should be the cloud-patterned dipper silver. One piece was equivalent to 20 million liang of gold, and the chest had 5 pieces in total. 2. Along with these 5 cloud-patterned dipper silver, there was also 5 pieces of the soft as silk golden or jade stone. From its flawlessly pure gold color, it was astonishingly extreme winding essence gold. It was a pity that there was not any daybreak frost and snow essence. Su Xing was somewhat regretful, and as he stowed away the stones, the group was currently preparing to depart from Cooling Kingdom. Just at this moment, from the empty sky came a tearing feeling. Everyone immediately put up their guard. There was a loud rumble, and a figure seemingly was spat out from empty space, heavily dropping down. It was not clear if it was alive or dead. Su Xing was surprised stiff by this unexpected scene. They flew over to it, and they saw a handsome youth with his bangs parted to the side collapsed on the spot. He wore a black robe, but the young man himself looked ordinary, commonplace with nothing strange, except that his face was exceptionally pale. "Those are the Lifeless Hall's robes," Wu Xinjie said, confused. This Lifeless Hall was one of the 2 halls of the Azure Dragon Territory's Great Sects. How was this disciple of the Lifeless Hall in such a sorry state? The Knowledge Star searched, only to discover his cultivation had unexpectedly reached Galaxy late stage. Su Xing looked at this youth wrinkling his brow, his expression in bitter pain. Evidently, he had just received some kind of attack. "Big brother, shall we save him?" the divine physician asked. Su Xing nodded, and the efficacious star took out a pill that she made him swallow. This youth's expression then finally calmed somewhat. Why would the Lifeless Hall be here? Shi Yuan was curious. Most probably he was here to snatch a birth outline when he encountered a powerful monster. Lin Yingmei guessed. Lifeless Hall has a star master described as being at the level of a monster. I heard he is very powerful, and for this birth outline, the Lifeless Hall definitely has exhausted their funds for him. It is reasonable to say that for his being at Galaxy late stage, robbing and killing the birth outline should not be so difficult. Wu Xinjie really was unable to understand. Forget it, don't worry about him. Let's leave first. Su Xing was not interested in caring about this sort of thing as the Lifeless Hall. Seeing his expression was calm, they could be considered to have been extremely benevolent. Just as the group was about to leave, leaving from the side of Biluo's 3 young master, the sound of someone approaching was like a whistling wind, accompanied by the sound of panting that broke the air. Yan Yizhen moved forward a step, and her hands grabbed. Several green lights flashed. Unexpectedly, they forced Yan Yizhen to continuously retreat several steps. The indifferent maid's expression revealed a trace of astonishment. A delicate figure suddenly appeared before everyone's eyes. The speed was oddly quick. It was a young woman. Her eyes were limpid, with natural good looks, wearing a blue smoky emerald vest, 5. A green pleated skirt that scattered flowers and mist. Her shoulders were draped with a light blue shade of a blue water thin smoke muslin, and her hair was in a bun with a dragon and phoenix hairpin jutting into it. She was actually a budding beauty. Young master? Su Xing was stunned. Could he be a star master? Everyone gazed at this ordinary man and felt disbelief. A galaxy late-stage star master simply was a monster. Yen Yizhen immediately put out an attack stance. The emerald smoke girl pursed her lips tightly, her fists clenched hard. They saw a moss-green flame ignite in her hand, and the blaze floated about. From time to time, it appeared like a malevolent monster's face, seemingly terrifying. The girl's forehead had a dark green star crest. Her identity was vividly displayed, Star General. The group's entire bodies were on guard. Su Xing stealthily used his divine intent to grab onto the artifact flying sword. The girl before him had a type of indescribable imposing air, especially her young master that was unexpectedly at galaxy late stage really was too unbelievable. Biluo, do not move your hand against them. Just at this moment where anything could happen, a warm and magnetic voice called out. The unconscious man had slowly opened his eyes under that pill of insuance. The girl, Biluo, harumphed, her fists relaxing. The green demon flame dispersed, and she promptly ran to the man's side. Thank you for your composed behavior pill. 6. The man slightly smiled. Although he looked commonplace, his smile was very kindly, one that made people almost forget his status as a star master. Unexpectedly, it was a galaxy late-stage star master. This had to be a joke, right? Su Xing was speechless, smiling on the surface. Fellow's expression looked bad. I wonder what happened. Could it be said Fellow encountered another star master? Biluo glared at Su Xing. What nonsense is that of yours? How could a star master be young master's opponent? Young master was but inattentive in handling a 6th-rank black water dragon. 7. Biluo. The man lightly smiled, and the girl tactfully ceased speaking. What? You alone were handling a 6th-rank demon beast? Wu Xinjia's heart could not raise any more shock. They had needed Junqin to handle a 5th-rank demon beast, yet this man unexpectedly dared to pick a fight with a 6th-rank demon beast? Although a 6th-rank demon beast theoretically was equivalent to galaxy stage, for a lone cultivator to get rid of one was harder than climbing to heaven. We missed the critical moment by a bit. The man was warm. He looked at Lin Yingmei and the rest. His eyes unexpectedly did not show a change of mood in the slightest, his heart frightfully calm. Could you be that monster of lifeless hall? Shi Yuan for the moment could not recall the name. You are Yen Wudao? Wu Xinjia stared at the other person. This one beneath you is indeed Yen Wudao. He calmly confessed. The atmosphere for a time was grim. Su Xing did not expect the person they just saved would be described as the Azure Dragon Territory's monster star master, Yen Wudao. This guy was frightening as expected. Without mentioning this exaggerated galaxy late-stage cultivation, he unexpectedly dared to fight a 6th-rank demon beast. Particularly looking at that Biluo girl at Yen Wudao's side, her forehead had an air of arrogance. 8. Clearly, her identity was not simple. Your name has been known to me for a long time. Sure enough, you are amazing. Su Xing cupped his fist. This time I was conceited. Yen Wudao frankly admitted to his own carelessness. This one beneath you wonders what to call your distinguished self. 9. Su Xing. He was this rejuvenated, and Su Xing actually did not think of concealing himself as a peon. Many thanks for Brother Su Xing's kindness in saving the life of this one beneath you today. I did not save you. Su Xing replied. Even if he did not eat that composed behavior pill, he would not have died. Yen Wudao actually did not believe this was the case. Wearing a profound smile, that calm expression seemingly saw through Su Xing's status as a star master to give off this graciousness. Biluo, have you obtained the heavenly spirit grade chest? Only naturally. It was a mere trifle. Biluo pridefully said. Biluo alone settled things. A chest then appeared. This time, even Lin Yingmei was somewhat astonished. This really was too terrifying for a star master. If that man was sent flying handling a 7th-rank demon beast by himself, that would be it. This star general unexpectedly picked a fight and got rid of the demon beast. Lin Yingmei's fist clenched tightly as she stared fixedly on the two. Wu Dao has not yet opened this chest. Brother Su Xing, if you would not turn your back on me, then please take anything from this chest at will to count as remuneration in turn. Yen Wudao said, his expression very sincere. In turn, then forget about it. If you really want to be magnanimous, then send me that chest. Seeing his expression was this generous, Su Xing could not help but speak some banter. You truly are without shame. This is but the birth outline treasure chest young master nearly threw his life away to plunder. Biluo was indignant. Brother Su Xing is really humorous? Yen Wudao's finger moved, and a black jade flew to Su Xing's hand. Su Xing fiddled with the black jade in his hand. His ocean of consciousness recalled the words that Yen Wudao said. This piece of lifeless jade had a value of several millions, and it was a precious stone that the lifeless hall used a secret technique to refine. Possessing this piece of jade signified in some aspect that you were an important guest of the lifeless hall. Yen Wudao gave this piece of lifeless jade to him without the slightest hesitation, which made Su Xing feel surprised. He was confident that this Yen Wudao should have discerned that he himself had the status of Star Master. Not only did he not act to kill, he even somewhat had the intention to become acquainted. He naturally would not believe a Star Master at the Galaxy late stage would want to curry favor with him. Merely looking at the appearance of Yen Wudao and his Star General, Su Xing knew his group perhaps would not have been their opponents even if they did gang up on the two. This Yen Wudao actually is somewhat interesting. Su Xing pondered, then stored the lifeless jade into his sack. Master, you must be wary of him, and especially of that Star General. Yen Yizhen's tone was cautious. She looked at both her fists, which were left with burn marks. To make Liangshan's #1 boxer, the skillful star, say these words, the enemy was as well as one could imagine. That Star General. Xinjie, do you know who she is? Everyone placed their gazes onto Wu Xinjie. The knowledge star continuously contemplated. Hearing the question, she raised her head and shook it. She should be at the 10,000 techniques realm as Xinjie was unable to see through her. However, seeing her attack, she should not be a military general. Their counterpart did not reveal a destined star weapon at all, and Wu Xinjie did not dare judge presumptuously. Using her line of thought to judge, the other party should be a heavenly star. The attack method she was adept in was magic and the like, but not matter how they put it, that Star Maiden was still considerably conceited. Otherwise, at any time she felt her young master had encountered danger, she would have taken out her destined star weapon. However, she indeed had the means to be conceited. Yen Wudao's cultivation had reached Galaxy late stage, so even if she was an earthly star, she would still prevail over a heavenly star. Why is his cultivation this high? And Suan truly could not think of how a mere 3 years of cultivation could attain Galaxy late stage. This kind of realm was too frightening. Is it because he has the purple star token? Lin Yingmei spoke some. Wu Xinjie shook her head, smiling. Yen Wudao and Xie Zhenyuan, if Xinjie has not guessed wrongly, both have heavenly spirit grade tokens, and it was several months after the star duels began that they obtained them. Everyone showed an epiphanic expression. Although the allure of the purple star token was very great, to obtain one was impossible within 2 or 3 years. For example, Princess Ling Yan was also described as one of the Azure Dragon Territory's peak star masters and only dared to get the purple star token when she was Galaxy early stage. In this way, many years' worth of time had to be wasted. Geniuses the likes of Yen Wudao and Xie Zhenyuan took an alternate route. Using the quickest speed to obtain the Heavenly Spirit grade outlaw writ that was second only to the purple star grade, then within the last few years, their cultivations could greatly surpass that of others, and doing anything they wanted was much more convenient. Until after the start of the birth outline, they would have even more time to go prepare for the star duels and did not need to practice. However, he unexpectedly fought a 6th-ranked demon beast on his own. His courage is not small. This point made Lin Yingmei awed. Mostly, Robbing and killing for the birth outline was a matter where there was more insurance when many hands provide great strength. Who would be as egotistical as he? Not so. Although many hands provide great strength that could turn up an extreme advantage, a star general must be able to promote her coordination with the star master, and vice versa. If it is military skills, not having to rely on others is the most important. Wu Xinjie felt this was the reason that Yan Wudao would be called a monster, and it was the scariest aspect. Daring to discard enormous power that could act as support, to be a single spear and horse, this was not something just anyone could do. When all was said and done after he really could enter Maiden Mountain, what he relied on could only be himself and not a sect. Su Xing deeply held this to be true. What monster or genius? How can he compare to Su Xing? Shi Yuan angrily refused to accept that. This is only natural. Young master has contracted we 5 sisters. Those geniuses are not worth a mention. Wu Xinjie laughed into her sleeve. Her words were not wrong. The time from when he entered the world of star cultivators to know had not been more than half a year, yet his star energy had reached nebula late stage. In all the Liangshan continent, perhaps there would not be anyone that could break the rules more than Su Xing could. We had still better quickly rush towards Cooling Kingdom. Seeing a powerful cultivator of the galaxy late stage, Su Xing was not particularly resigned. Yan Wudao fled on sword light directly northwards. From his ocean of consciousness, Biluo's voice sounded out. Young master. That shameless man just now Biluo knows is a star master. Why did young master give the lifeless jade to him? He is regarded as having saved my life, Biluo. Do you feel it was not right? Biluo loathes fickle men. He brings along that many beautiful women at his side. Biluo loathes to death and truly wishes to use a stone to crush him to death. Yan Wudao slightly smiled. Not long after, 6 towering mountain peaks like swords appeared before his eyes. He saw more than a dozen sword lights approach, wearing similar robes. They were precisely disciples of the lifeless hall. Senior brother Wudao. Every disciple deferentially saluted. Senior brother, nothing is wrong with you? Yan Wudao lightly nodded, his face wearing a slight smile. What? Senior brother Wudao, you ran off without permission this time. We hear you killed a 6th-rank demon beast on your own, and the headmaster is currently angry. A cultivator said. And after the birth outline opened, things have been too disorganized. The headmaster is afraid of that group of traditionalists from the most high path. Yan Wudao nodded, and then he flew to the tallest peak. Just when the entire Liangshan was in accordance with the You Die and I Live of the birth outline, in Cooling Kingdom's Sun Valley County, there nevertheless was a rumor that was spreading. It was said that an ancient demon beast, the beastly slant-eyed white-headed beast, 3, appeared on Jingyang Ridge, and every time night fell, a tiger hiss shook the mountain, shook it such that the Sun Valley County's villagers within 100 li could not have peace. The people were alarmed, and every night, they closed the passes and locked up the windows. The authorities dispatched many officers and men and hunting families to go capture it, but the fact was that not one man returned alive. It was just like Jingyang Ridge had become Suicide Ridge. For lack of a better option, the authorities issued a bulletin towards sects of star cultivators requesting for aid. However, it was currently the time to rob and kill for the birth outline, and those sects did not have the mood to take care of this. Many scattered star cultivators partnered up to kill the beast, and those that came out were few enough to be counted on fingers. On this day, against the setting sun, with wine banner floating open, a bamboo hat, 5, wearing an elegant beyond compare young woman cheerfully strutted into Jingyang Ridge. The young girl's air was like a serene orchid, her mien absolutely beautiful, a pair of slender eyes like the deep, starry skies, and wearing a kind of expression that was close to tranquil waters, she was fully stunning. Her brows were like smoke, and her purple-red lips reflected the sun, wearing a black-patterned beautiful dress as well as a demon lotus cloak, 6, and with breasts that were like clouds, 7, her graceful figure was without a match. That slender pair of legs had rarely seen leather armor boots, and particularly that satiny black hair that poured down to her butt. It was just like an upside-down Milky Way flying down 3,000 chi, which made people feel suffocated. The girl was graceful, cold, just like a black lotus that bloomed among white ones. Noble and brimming with rejection, this strangeness made people incapable of looking up, only stealing admiring glances. She was exceedingly cool and elegant. At this time, Jingyang Ridge had many star cultivators, and when they saw the girl, each and everyone were captivated. The girl's seemingly cold yet not cold bright eyes swept, and she then walked into one of Jingyang Ridge's pubs. The atmosphere immediately froze. The girl was accustomed to this, not at all taking notice of these kinds of expressions. Finding an empty table, the girl's side seemingly had a formless chi field, making people unable to approach. These star cultivators instinctively felt the girl was dangerous and retreated backwards, but their expressions nevertheless were incapable of leaving the young lady's slim figure. The girl opened her mouth, her tone a flapping wind. "Ah, honored guest, what do you want?" The waiter did not dare step forward. "Bring several bottles of bottle-penetrating fragrance." "Yes." Several bottles of good wine very quickly were sent, and the girl opened her mouth to ask, "Has a demon beast appeared at Jingyang Ridge?" "Ah, reportedly, it is an extremely violent slant-eyed white-headed beast. The officials are unable to take it down, and I hear several sects also had no solutions. A great deal of people have died." The girl drank large mouthfuls of the fragrant wine, and the waiter continued, "Honored guest, take it easy a bit. This bottle-penetrating fragrance is indeed the true Sun Sect's 9 special local product, 3 bottle only for intoxication." Ever since the girl entered this pub, the atmosphere became absolutely silent, and the mood turned more and more restless. Those star cultivators looked at each other in dismay, covering each other's stunned expressions with difficulty. The longer they stayed, the less they were able to restrain themselves against this girl. Several people began to leave with some difficulty. Slowly, the people inside the shop were fewer and fewer. The waiter felt this was not too normal, promptly looking stupidly and regretfully at the woman. The curtain was pulled open, and the waiter saw the shopkeeper wave before hastily running into his own room. In the blink of an eye, the inn was absolutely empty. The girl did not care. Drinking the good wine, her lips hooked into a slight smile. Leaving a few pieces of gold fragments, the girl then walked out the door, her brows slightly tightened, treading forward. A large array immediately opened and trapped her. Hee. Shuffling, several hundred star cultivators rushed out. More than a dozen among them were galaxy cultivators raising swords defensively at their sides. Still not kneeling to give the Star General a salute. They only heard this reprimand. These disciples then all half knelt, loudly saluting. The girl did not bat an eye. The reprimanding elderly man carried a benevolent smile and walked out, also cupping his fist, his manner deferential. "This one beneath you is the true Sun Sect headmaster. We heard Star General honored us with your presence here and brought the sect's disciples to wait upon your distinguished self. Get out of my way." The young woman was cold as ice and frost. She approached of her own accord the crux of the array. The true Sun Sect headmaster smiled. "The true Sun Sect has a talented star master that your distinguished self certainly will be to your satisfaction. Although the true Sun Sect cannot be said to be a 10-great sect, we certainly will go through water and tread on fire for Lady Star General. Exhausting all the power we have, we recently acquired a heavenly spirit grade chest that so happens could be gifted to your distinguished self." An exceedingly handsome man walked out. His eyes looked stunned and excited at the girl. His cultivation unexpectedly was at galaxy early stage. The girl lowered her eyes, somewhat indifferent. Without looking any further at the heavenly spirit treasure chest or that genius star cultivator, she turned and walked towards Jingyang Ridge. The magic circle suddenly expanded, light flying in all directions, and the girl halted her advance. The old man said, "This is but the true sun heavenly fire great array. 10. You will not be able to walk out. Could it be that your distinguished self Star General really will not consider it? The birth outline already began, so this is precisely a very good opportunity. If you have finished speaking your drivel, then remove this array." The girl icily said. The elderly man was somewhat irked. Since the birth outline has begun, even if we killed a star general, there should not be a problem. You really did not care too much about our True Sun sect. If your distinguished self truly does not want to sign a contract, then the True Sun sect can only commit an offense. Using this True Sun Heavenly Fire Great Array, we will force you to submit. This True Sun sect headmaster turned his head and was just about to order that disciple, when suddenly he saw the disciple's face become frightened. He was on the point of rebuking his insufficient earnestness when suddenly he discovered he could utter no sound from his throat. What was going on? The True Sun sect headmaster felt strange. He suddenly felt an attractive fragrance, and his heart suddenly was fearful. His throat had already been ripped apart by a sharp and fine blade. He saw the cold and splendid girl appear before him, not knowing when she broke through the True Sun Heavenly Fire Great Array. Her speed was swift, for of all the disciples present, not one was able to react. Elders ought to peacefully enjoy their later years. The elderly man's pupils dilated, in disbelief. If you find a star general in the future, you had best first find one willing to sign a contract. Otherwise, you will regret it for a lifetime. A delicate fragrance assailed the nostrils, air serenely entering the ear. The girl was indifferent, as if she was speaking about an insignificant matter. Everyone present cowered. Fine black hair satiny as water, beyond cool and elegant. After leaving behind more than a dozen corpses, the True Sun sect's people immediately scattered in a panic. The outstanding and tall woman did not pursue them, standing very straight under Jingyang Ridge. Everything seemed to have had nothing to do with her, and she turned around to walk up Jingyang Ridge. Just at this time, a teasing voice sounded out behind her. Truly worthy of the name of dual master of sword and fist of the 108 sisters, and is also this good at understanding others. The woman raised her eyebrows, her cold and splendid eyes slightly narrowed, and she saw a girl wearing an imitation yellow armored vest and skirt walking cheerfully to her. Her face wore a slight smile, and if Su Xing were here, he would definitely be shocked. This girl was precisely the one who originally once recruited and controlled Lin Yingmei and Lu Qing'er at Cash Mountain, Xiao. Isn't it? Little Sister Harm's star pilgrim Wu Song. Xiao smiled and squinted her eyes. Her hair unfolded like running water, her silhouette flashed by, the ends of her skirt rising. The black-haired elegant and magnificent girl already launched an attack. Xiao retreated backwards, like a willow supported by a light wind, easily dodging Wu Song's claw. Wu Song's eyes had a cold light, and her wrist flipped, showing an extremely gorgeous, strange, and mysterious saber. This saber seemed to be two daggers interlocked into a saber staff. Its length reaching 2 meters. The sword tips were seemingly forged from thousand-year-cold snow, emitting an absolute chill. A ring of black talisman runes was eerily written onto the sword, deeply open and on the verge of being revealed. The sword tip's cold light was just like an unfolding snow lotus herb. Under the contrast of black snow, it was extremely and eerily beautiful, pretty and flirtatious. This was precisely the Harm Star Pilgrim Wu Song's destined star weapon. Double-ended sword, noble frost demonic lotus. The black and white blend of stars on the sword twinkled. It was already a 2-star heavenly weapon. Little Sister Wu Song's noble frost demonic lotus still has this sort of beauty. Xiao retreated. Wu Song used one hand to chop. The noble frost demonic lotus spun and stabbed at Xiao. Xiao's hand flashed by, and a long weapon enveloped in golden light appeared in her hand. With a resounding noise, it slammed into the noble frost demonic lotus. Wu Song's attack nevertheless did not stop, and in the instant they touched, the noble frost demonic lotus wound around, easily avoiding Xiao's weapon. Sword chi slashed. Black lotus petals dispersed. Xiao raised her long weapon, and she changed into a series of phantoms that got out of the way of her attack. The woman's mouth coldly hooked, destroying the images, spry and lively. Xiao's expression concentrated, and she suddenly turned around and leapt. The saber staff attacked from above and below, and sword chi struck from left and right. The airflow tore open, and it then shook back Xiao. Xiao looked at this cool and pitiless woman, teasing her. The previous generation's Wusong skills pressured Maiden Mountain. This generation's little sister Wusong seems also to be very stunning here. If you want to die, do not hesitate to say so. With her long hair flowing, the tall woman seemed much more mature than Xiao, so being called a little sister by her was somewhat strange. Xiao curled her lips into a hook. The two stepped forward at the exact same moment. Wusong took the lead to launch an attack. The noble frost demonic lotus in her hand tore apart the atmosphere with a scream, appearing to be a dazzling strike of lightning, directly slashing towards Xiao's delicate body. But Xiao's movements were even more swift than this lightning. The girl's hair nearly stuck to the cold sword tip's sharp light, but the hair that had not yet approached but was cut off by the sword chi was rather much. However, her expression actually concentrated on the target above, on that sweet and fair figure that was just like a graceful swallow. Under the light, sweeping by the tiniest fraction, in a split second of the girl's single-handed wave, the weapon shrouded in golden light launched a screaming strike against her counterpart. Wusong promptly sidestepped this attack, but some of her fine hair still had been severed. Bits of hair wildly danced all over the place, and in the instant that this chaotic scene could have been taken to be like a strong wind had blown past, Xiao's second rippling attack had already arrived by a hair's breadth. The mutually crossing attacks was a feast for the eyes, and within the distance the intersecting weapons were stuck together. The weapons completely did not fully use any margin. Very quickly, the battle then ended. The double peaks of the two girls stood in confrontation. Greeting your elder sister this way is not too good, right? Xiao held her weapon in one hand, covering her mouth as she smiled. So it's you. Wusong calmly put away her fighting intent, and dispersing the saber staff, she seemed to know the identity of the girl before her. She coldly said, "Did you have some business? Don't be so cold." Xiao smiled. Elder sister specially came to bring little sister two good pieces of news. Little sister Wusong's martial arts progress is exquisite, which elder sister admires. Fighting any further certainly would not bring much benefit. However, even if it is by little sister's current cultivation, that slant-eyed white-headed beast still can't be subdued? Xiao leisurely said. The girl used her white fingers to tidy the hair severed near her cheeks, not replying. Xiao continued to say, "How about if Xiao helps you subdue it?" "Why would you want to help me?" Wusong asked. "That's very simple. I want you and I to go together to plunder the purple star birth outline. This thing of the birth treasure outline at that time will return to me." "I do not have interest in this." Wusong icily turned around. The next piece of information, little sister Wusong certainly will be very interested in. Xiao did not find this surprising. Lin Chong has signed a contract. Her footsteps halted, and the woman turned around. This time, pupils as sharp as knives revealed surprise. "What did you say?" It seems little sister truly is immersed in martial arts and star weapon upgrades, not caring about the Azure Dragon territory. The matter of Lin Chong and the Purple Thunder Monster has stirred up many problems and troubles. Xiao walked to her side, her brows raised. This little sister was even taller than her by a head, her breasts towering, her butt outstanding. The curves gathered under the silk were completely displayed, indeed a uniquely beautiful woman. Any man perhaps would dream of having such an ideally mannered star general, and even Xiao felt jealous. Impossible. How would Ingmei sign a contract? Don't you think you can fool me? The woman's tone was cold. Ingmei? You even know her true name. Little sister and she have a pretty good relationship. But you would think so, similarly being a star general among us sisters that absolutely would not possibly sign a contract. Your relationship has been good since time immemorial. Xiao smiled. If you feel Xiao is fooling you, then it is necessary to go ask. Furthermore, Xiao indeed has seen with her own eyes firsthand her and that man. Surely he must have used a despicable trick. Her white fingers tightly clenched. The atmosphere had been squeezed to pieces, and Wusong's eyes burst forth with an intense killing intent. Xiao's eyelids jumped, and she lightly smiled. How about it? Lining definitely will go seize the purple star-grade birth outline alongside her young master. At that time, you perhaps could see her, and what, it can't be said for certain that man would not make you extremely surprised. I definitely will kill him, Wusong said coldly. Having wasted more or less 10 days, and again plundering 2 earthly fiend chests along the way, Su Xing's group finally arrived at the Azure Dragon Territory's furthest east Flaming Eastern Island. Flaming Eastern Island was an enormous island, with a fire nature that was exceptionally good at forging weapons. The earthly fire mountain range, 5, snaked up and down, making Flaming Eastern Islands overhead enveloped in dark smoke all year round. Additionally, on this island were also more than a dozen volcanoes. The environment here was of torrid heat, one that ordinary star energy had difficulty resisting. Even if they were away by several tens of kilometers, they could still feel the stifling heat, and penetrating any further into the skin, it would be a pincushion of pain. It was very difficult to imagine this place would have an ancient school stationed on the island. The ancient era Champion 9 Dragon School had been extinguished. What the 4-style school could preserve could be said to be as it should have been. Suspended on its lonesome offshore above the vile environment, no one was willing to stop over longer here. Furthermore, this tool refining sect, the 4-style school, reportedly refined this Flaming Eastern Island into a terrifying forbid dance great array. As a result, everyone had lingering fears which were not completely eradicated. In addition, in the 10,000 li of sea area, there was also a falling cherry ghost kingdom. 6. Flaming Eastern Island just happened to be lodged in the path of the falling cherry ghost kingdom's attack on the Azure Dragon Territory, and the Azure Dragon Territory needed a large sect to protect this place. Thus, the 4-style school maintained it. Although this was so, that the Azure Dragon Territory was rather afraid of the consequences. Blockaded tightly, the 4-style school in end could only cut itself off from the rest of the world. Since then, it did not pay attention to the affairs of the world, and until now had nearly been forgotten with red clouds for days on end, scorched earth spread over the ground. Su Xing's throat was incomparably dry, his forehead layered in sweat. He took out the token, and then in an instant, the token became an escape light that flashed into the dense fog of the island. 1 incense stick later, he then saw several scarlet lights escape out from the Flaming Eastern Island's mountain range. The lights arrived before him, and wearing dark red robes were a man and woman, their cultivations both at nebula middle stage. We wonder what sort of person fellow is to Martial Uncle 7, Yuchi Qingshan? Seeing Su Xing's cultivation was nebula late stage, the two were very deferential. This one beneath you is Su Xing. Su Xing respectfully said, narrating the pretext Wu Xinjie had first arranged beforehand. The male cultivator scouted, then nodded to the female cultivator. Follow me, the female cultivator said. Su Xing raised a sword light and accompanied them. Entering the center of the island, the air temperature somewhat fell. In the middle was a peak that was a green, grass-like cushion. In this Flaming Eastern Island, it could be counted as having ignited a slightly warm air. This peak that was known as Pure Heart Peak, 8, was also the main peak of the 4-style school's main hall. The others were also Fire Cloud Peak, 9, Water Moon Peak, 10, Wind Violent Peak, 11, and Thunder Roll Peak, 12, each representative of the sect's 4 styles. While he passed through the sky, Su Xing specially sized up Flaming Eastern Island and found that Flaming Eastern Island had several sizable villages, but he discovered en route to Clear Heart Peak, the sect's disciples were extremely few. He only saw very few numbers of disciples traveling back and forth between the 5 peaks. Those once imposing halls were covered in dirt, lonely and withered, a school with a desolate appearance. Su Xing actually had some sympathy. Seeing through what Su Xing was thinking, the female cultivator showing the way then explained, many disciples currently are in seclusion refining tools. We originally were a tool refinement sect, continuously residing in the deep mountains, very infrequently showing our faces. If the bell tolls to warn of an enemy, we do have several thousand people. Su Xing had a so that's why expression, however, For such a big flaming eastern island to only have several thousand people, the Four Styles sect was lacking in some. The female cultivator recalled something and slightly smiled. This one beneath you is Yang Yenyu. 13. You can call me Senior Sister Yang or Senior Sister Yenyu. Senior Sister Yenyu, I wonder what sort of person the master was in the sect? Su Xing asked, feigning curiosity. Martial Uncle Yuchi Qingshan was the Four Styles School's finest tool refinement scholar. His temper somewhat reclusive, he spent all year round cultivating, so even I am not too clear. But I hear people said the headmaster as well as Elder Four Styles both deeply revered him. The magic weapons Martial Uncle Qingshan's heaven-clinging divine fire forged could be matched only by Martial Aunt 14 Yueka's heavenly water heart flame. Reportedly, when Martial Uncle Qingshan wanted to leave the island to seek a disciple, the ancestral masters within the school were very opposed. Why did they want to oppose him? Su Xing did not understand. This I do not know. Perhaps it is because it was too dangerous. However, the headmaster's worries were correct. We never thought the martial uncle would really, Yang Yenyu sighed. Su Xing was silent. Fortunately, the martial uncle having found a worthy disciple can be considered as having no regrets. Seeing as how junior brother Su Xing's appearance is grand, you have boundless prospects. In the future, you must take care of senior sister. Yang Yenyu smiled. And I must also entreat senior sister take care of me as well, Su Xing modestly said. As the two chatted, when they entered the Pure Heart Peak, they resumed formalities as they then fell off their flying swords. While flaming Eastern Island seemingly had blistering heat, this Pure Heart Peak contrarily was indeed a refreshing coolness that set the heart as its name suggested. It was an entirely different scene, surrounded by emerald green, mellow and fresh water, with rare birds and beasts that could be seen from time to time. The main peak's environment was even more enveloped within a boundless mist, a school abundant with the colors of spring. Yang Yenyu said flaming Eastern Island's network of volcanoes was continuous. Like Fire Cloud Peak, the environment was broiling hot, the temperature higher by more than 40 degrees, the highest reaching 100 degrees. If ordinary cultivators did not wear precious jade, they simply would not have any way to support themselves for too long. Something like Pure Heart Peak was even created in ancient times when ancestral masters exerted their powers and secret arts. It could be said to be a genuine paradise. In addition, this kind of place was the residence of the headmaster. They did not walk for long when an immense ring-shaped corridor appeared before them. Along its edge at intervals of 2 zhang were red pillars, and the pillars were carved with coiling dragons. The dragons spat raging flames, and within the conflagration, an arched door took shape. Following the corridor onward, they passed by each and every door and fire dragon pillar, and only then did Su Xing discover, within every door, each possessed a unique and refined courtyard. The scope of these courtyards were complex, with the sword storage pavilion, the literary path, 2, the extreme technique hall, 3, weapon tempering hall, the 100 opportune courtyard, 5, and so forth. Only through Yang Yenyu's introductions did he realize that the tool refinement, quenching hardening, spell carving and the others of these courtyards and pavilions embodied a series of the Four Styles sect's most common sights. Without mentioning anything else, speaking from this scale, small courtyards like this perhaps were not less than 100 in number, so the former power of the Four Styles school could be clearly seen. It was a pity that these rows upon rows of numerous halls were nowadays pathetically few in disciples. Some pavilions were even without people to stand guard, covered completely in dust. Only after walking for a long while did they see the end of this corridor. There was an incomparably towering white wall, and under it, a door opened. There were 2 very thick wooden door panels, their heights reaching 10 zhang. The door was painted with the 4 styles of wind, thunder, water and fire, serious and vivid, a supernaturally fine craft. Stepping out of this door just now, Su Xing held his breath, looking at everything before him in disbelief. What he was before him was a super-huge plaza, as if he stood in a plain that had no end in sight. Su Xing estimated it was at least the size of 3 Tiananmen squares. The surface was completely paved with white marble, reflecting and sparkling. One look would make people feel insignificant. From far away, a white cloud that was like muslin unexpectedly drifted underfoot. In the center of the public square, at intervals of several zhang were placed massive copper cauldrons, divided into 3 rows with 3 each for a total of 9 arranged according to some pattern. From within the cauldrons, smoke drifted out from time to time, the scent distinct and not dispersed. In the plaza was a several zhang tall gigantic inscribed stele that was carved from white jade, and in the middle was carved a relief sculpture of a fairy entering the mundane world. He saw that fairy entrusting a white divine sword to a young man half kneeling below, who caught the blade. Upon the inscribed stele was a stone sword that was exactly the same as in the relief sculpture. This sword is called Heaven and Earth of the 4 Styles. 6. Legend says a goddess conferred it upon the ancestral master that opened the school. We comprehended the 4 refinement styles of today from the wind, thunder, water, fire on the sword. That is precisely this school's history. Seeing that Su Xing was a disciple of the master, and that his future held abundant prospects, Yang Yanyu very meticulously presented things. The Heaven and Earth of the 4 Style sword is indeed a sect-protecting treasure. At the end of the plaza was a stone bridge, without foundations, stretching to the sky. One end was connected to the plaza, directly inclining upwards, into the abyss of clouds, like a dragon leaping through the heavens. Its grandeur was proud and aloof, and water flowed unceasingly from the ends, incomparably clear. Walking along this endless bridge, they ascended more than 100 steps. The representative giant beast of the 4 styles, the copper cauldrons, towered nearby. 7. Afterwards, they arrived at the highest peak, the location of Styles Heart Hall. 8. Su Xing's heart said this 4 style school deserved the name of the ancient 9 Dragons Great Sect. Although it had declined, the remaining buildings were timeless in their manifested splendor. It was just that currently, it had an additional trace of desolation. Upon the main hall, there stood several dozen people, who all seemed to be under the 4 style school. Before everyone were placed 7 large sandalwood chairs, with 1 each on the left and right, and another position in between at the very front. Above, there actually sat only 6 people, and only the last seat on the right row was empty without anyone sitting in it. At this time, everyone in the hall was currently in discussion, seeming deliberating something. The Yang Yanyu who guided Su Xing tidied her robes outside the door, respectfully saying, "Headmaster, all master uncles." 9. Disciple Yanyu received orders to bring the disciple who held onto Master Uncle Qingshan's token. "You may continue." A dense voice started to talk. Su Xing walked into the hall, and several expressions sharp as falcons looked towards him, seemingly to look at him clearly from head to toe. The cultivators in this main hall nearly were the peaks of the 4 style school, and Su Xing remained calm and collected, secretly sizing them up. By means of Wu Xinjie's seeing clearly innate skill, not a single one of these cultivators' cultivations did not stand out as prominent in the current Su Xing's eyes. Everyone was galaxy middle stage to late stage, and the one sitting in the middle with a fire-refining robe, seemingly different in spirit, was an old man with eyes like candle flames and the highest cultivation, already at supercluster middle stage. It was just that he saw his aged essence chi was dark, just like he was in his declining years. He was precisely the 4 Styles sect's headmaster, the Taoist master Xiantian. 10. Yuqi Qingshan was just the pinnacle tool refinement scholar of the 4 Styles school that Yang Yanyu said. After they lost his trail, those within the sect previously wrung their wrists and sighed more than once, but when they received news that Yuqi Qingshan's apprentice was entering the door, the entire 4 Styles school was astonished. The Taoist master Xiantian immediately convened the first seats of the 4 Styles spirit peaks for discussion. Seeing Su Xing was calm and collected, like a dry well. 11. The Taoist master Xiantian inwardly sighed that a master under him had chosen an extraordinary apprentice. Looking at that bearing, it seemed he had seen gales and billows, imposing and steady, his expression calm. He truly was a good successor to be used for tool refinement. Originally, he still had some doubts, but now, he completely believed Su Xing was Yu Qingshan's apprentice. 12. In any case, even if he was not, it did not matter. The Four Styles School already had not seen such a gifted and outstanding disciple for a very long time. A nebula late-stage cultivation was not low. You are called Su Xing? The Taoist master Xiantian asked. This one beneath you precisely is Su Xing. Su Xing reported. And how did his find you? Su Xing regurgitated his speech again, and if nothing else, it was the stereotypical chance encounter, with that kind of unavoidable, boy, I see you hold much potential and such routine. In Liangshan continent, the disciples received this way were many. The Taoist master Xiantian also asked Su Xing how his master fell. Su Xing did not directly at all say he had died, instead saying that after his master left behind the token and secret arts, master let him set out for the Four Styles School while he swam once more into the clouds. Saying as much was to omit unnecessary troubles, and lying too much made it easy for him to become exposed. The expression of everyone present was bleak, already knowing everything towards Yu Qingshan bode ill, with no positive signs. Did your master leave behind any other things? The Taoist master Qingshan asked in a low voice. None. Su Xing shook his head. Like this, the Taoist master Xiantian was regretful. Headmaster, since Master Uncle Yu Qingshan commanded him to come to this sect alone, it is not possible for him to practice by himself. I had better re-enroll him into the school. A full-bearded, capable man's deep voice said. His eyes looked at Su Xing like he was eyeing a treasure. Just as his fingertip was about to point at Su Xing, he was blocked by that's thunder roll-peaked first Xing, 13, beside him, who rushed out in front of him. He said to the Taoist master Xiantian, Senior brother headmaster, today, the moment I saw this child, I felt that he and I are kindred spirits, and seeing his practice is the clinging fire introductory cultivation method, it actually complements the thunder roll cultivation method very well. Is it not even more suitable with my heavenly fire peak? The big man was displeased. For the long-established Four Styles School, actually because it was nowadays cut off from the rest of the world, it had been blockaded by the Azure Dragon territory, so disciples could only be sought after in the dozen or so villages on flaming Eastern Island. Think about how miserable that was. The disciples already under the school was a yellow unable to reach the green, and now seeing Su Xing's cultivation had reached this high of a nebula late stage, he simply was regarded by Master Uncle Yu Qingshan as a piece of delicious cake. It could not be said for sure what else that tool refinement scholar left behind for him. From what I see, he is wise and steady, calm and quick-witted. The Water Moon Peak actually could not be better. The first seat of Water Moon Peak also butted in. The Taoist master Xiantian looked at their squabble, wrinkling his brow. Quarreling into this fashion, what a scandal! A voice cold as pure frost suddenly penetrated into the main hall. The door opened. A dignified and refined beautiful woman with a hair bun delicately walked in leisurely. The quarreling individuals in the main hall immediately shut their mouths. Junior Sister Yueka, why have you left seclusion? The Taoist master Xiantian rose to go greet her. This beauty's position within the Four Styles School was not low. The first seats of the Four Styles mountain peaks all continuously smiled awkwardly. Junior Sister Yueka? Su Xing's brows jumped. This woman was Ju Yueka? 14. Within the letters Yu Qingshan left behind, he had found many records regarding things about Ju Yueka. The relationship between the two seemed to be not simple. Su Xing surreptitiously looked her up and down. Black clothes bounded white, a dancing form that birthed wind, long brows wholesomely beautiful, a manner that slightly looked down on others. Senior brother headmaster, what? I heard that senior brother had an apprentice that came to enter the school. How could junior sister not be informed? The beauty lightly smiled. The Taoist master Xiantian was embarrassed. He did not call for this junior sister of his because he knew she and Yu Qingshan had some things that were not spoken of clearly between them. From the surface of the two, one was a heaven-clinging divine fire, and the other was a heaven's will water flame, an intolerable combination of sharply contrasting elements. However, he also knew this relationship of competition was more or less somewhat vague. When Yuchi Qingshan originally set out to search for a disciple, this junior sister was depressed and sad for a time. The fact his apprentice returned signified that Yuchi Qingshan had already suffered a mishap. Otherwise, how could he have possibly alone be given his personal token? 16. The Taoist master Xiantian was also afraid this junior sister would take her anger out on the talented apprentice the four-style school had so much difficulty receiving. Senior brother headmaster, you can relax. Yueka has already reconciled herself about him. Originally, in spite of hearing obstructions, he was determined to go to the Azure Dragon territory to receive an apprentice. Yueka then knew everything bode ill for him. Yueka calmly smiled. Master 17 Yueka? Su Xing bowed his head. Yueka sized him up, nodded and mildly said, not bad. He actually has some insight, finding a good disciple when he was at death's door. He was always better off compared to our being trapped here to death. Such a pity. Senior brother headmaster, turn him over to this junior sister's school. Yueka said. Senior sister Yueka, it has been very difficult these past 2 years for a gifted and outstanding youngster to come, and you have already signed him away. The first seat of Water Moon Peak complained. Lianxin's, 18, progress these past several years has been comparatively great, but his temper is somewhat antisocial. Although weapon refinement masters are all this way, I certainly would not want to see something like a second senior brother Qingshan. On one hand, the cultivation of the two is close to being kindred spirits, and on the other, we can have Lianxi take care of Su Xing's potential in weapon refinement. Is it not too excessive for Yueka's school to have these two apprentices? Yueka's smile was like a lotus flower, uncontaminated by filth. The others had no alternative. Yueka then brought Su Xing to the place where he should live. That was somewhere more remote than Pure Heart Peak, a place known as Mirror's Flower Stream, the mountain stream of a valley. A white curtain extended into the sky. 2 ranges upon ranges of mountains, verdant and lush bamboo forests hid the sky and covered the earth, an environment that was even quiet and secluded. Did your master have any other words? Yueka feigned indifference as she asked. With this mood, how could Su Xing not know what she was thinking about? He seized the chance to console her. Actually, I often heard Master keep saying a phrase over and over, but I just do not know what purpose it has. What phrase? Yueka's brows rose. With this life, I shan't waste. Yueka was shaken. She lowered her head, and Su Xing could not tell what she was thinking about. The winding path went through a remote place, and then he saw a bamboo house. He saw outside the house was an open space where a scholarly youth was currently practicing something. The posture his palm danced through was quick and skillful, and several seals later, a blue flame appeared in his hand while the other hand had a red flame. Lianxin, Yueka called. The youth stowed his hands, and seeing them, he very deferentially welcomed them, crisply yelling, Master, I shall give you an introduction. He is Tang Lianxin, and henceforth he is your senior brother. This is Su Xing, a new disciple received from Master. Properly acquaint yourselves. Yueka made the introductions. Tang Lianxin? His name really was very effeminate. Su Xing restrained himself from smiling, scrutinizing the youth before him. With delicate features, he had grown into a scholarly elegance, a contrarily charming child. It was just that he looked rather cold, his expression awfully loathsome, seemingly as if he did not like this junior brother. Hello. He faintly cupped his fist, his etiquette very precise. Starting from this day, guide junior brother Su Xing according to what Master 3 has arranged. Take good care of him, and as far as the established rules of my school, stay for a moment and explain them to him. Disciple understands. And another thing, Yueka said, from now into the future, Master hopes you two can speak more in the future, interact more. Master certainly does not want to let others crack jokes when they see you two. Disciple engraves this to memory. Yueka was still not finished speaking. One last thing, from this day onwards, you two must eat, live, rest and work together. Suffer misfortune together, enjoy blessings together. Regard each other as brothers in a family. Do you understand? Master, could it be you want me to sleep with him? Tang Lianxin's brow creased, his forehead somewhat in rejection. Even if it was not him, Su Xing himself felt this was awkward. His heart said this beautiful woman could not possibly be a fujoshi, could she, making two grown men rest together under a large blanket. Both sleeping under a large blanket is unnecessary, right? Su Xing awkwardly said. Tang Lianxin nodded his head. Is there a reason why brothers cannot sleep on one bed? Could it be you two are afraid you will be unable to cut off your own sleeves? 5. Juyueka coldly said. Su Xing thought he indeed had to concede defeat. Lianxin, you have come to this school for 2 years. Other than teacher, you have never interacted with other people. Although your innate talent in tool refinement exceeds others, you use your time on this field. Doing so is not altogether inexcusable, but teacher still hopes you can be more open and clear, understand? Juyueka's eyes contained some regret. Young lord, she is very much like a stepmother. Wu Xinjie joked. Disciple follows your orders. Tang Lianxin cautiously replied. And tomorrow, teacher will again come to see you too. Juyueka nodded, stepped onto a flying sword, and thus soared into the air. Tang Lianxin looked at Su Xing, locking his brows. He suddenly asked, Junior brother Su Xing, did you truly come to sincerely learn tool refinement? Of course, heaven and earth can attest to that. Su Xing was calm. Then good. Though Tang Lianxin seemed unwilling, he still simply introduced Juyueka's established rules for the school. Juyueka, the four-style school's junior sister, could be counted as one of the sect's 2 great elders, the other elder of which was Yu Qiqingshan. In the four-style school, she was a peak tool refinement master, an expert in the heavenly water heart flame whose divine intent for refining magic weapons was extremely powerful. Juyueka resided in the heavenly water mansion. 6. The teaching style she had for apprentices was to have them develop on their own, regularly arranging at set intervals some assignments for those under her school that were required to be complete within a time limit. If it was not accomplished, the first time would double the required objective. The second time was direct expulsion from the school. The rules were extremely harsh, and in her words, if even her most simply arranged assignments were unable to be completed, then the student did not have any qualifications to study alongside her. Thus, besides Tang Lianxin, Juyueka's current disciple was just Su Xing. The rest of the time, as long as the sect did not forbid it, there were no restrictions, so he actually was very free. This just happened to be aligned with Su Xing's intentions. Of course, Su Xing had only just come. Whether or not he could stand firmly still depended on after a month. This refining soul technique. 7. Heavenly talent and earthly treasure reflections. 8. Tool refinement school of thought. 9. Tool refinement magic circle. 10. 5 elements theory. Tang Lianxin rustled through and brought out several dozen thick books from inside the house, placing them one after the other into Su Xing's hands while saying, these are the most basic learnings for a tool refinement master. The refining soul technique is used to cultivate your nature. What tool refinement masters pay particular attention to is exactly the tranquil and even-tempered. Only then would the chi flame of that heart would have even more understanding towards artifact and magic weapon refinement. This heavenly talent and earthly treasure reflections recorded many of the materials for refined ores and precious stones. Tool refinement masters must memorize these. The tool refinement style school of thought records a few great abstinences and trains of thought. This tool refinement magic circle is specially used to explain the structure of magic circles that are necessary for tool refinement, and the 5 elements theory speaks of the engendering and restraining of each of the 5 elements. Tang Lianxin carefully said word by word. Su Xing listened with hype, more or less remembering these things. It would appear the complex things are a few of the most basic learnings. After a month, I will come test you. Tang Lianxin said. Some of these I am already capable of. Su Xing said. If you feel you currently are capable, then I can test you right now. Go notify the master again. Tang Lianxin was very stiff, his head also not turning as he walked to the side, seemingly not wanting to interact with Su Xing any further. Su Xing put away these books. Can I go learn at other places? As you please. Tang Lianxi said indifferently. Su Xing wiped his sweat, feeling just like he had returned to that generation where teachings were force-fed, a kind of indescribably familiarity with somewhat of a hint of masochism. Su Xing first walked about the mirror's flower stream, roughly understanding the topography of the environment here. He felt this place was considerably good. The rear mountain also had a hot spring, and compared to flaming Eastern Island's torrid heat, the mirror's flower stream could be considered a scenic vacation spot. What made Su Xing even more surprised was that the mirror's flower stream's spiritual influence were abundant. He was currently above a spirit vessel, and this was an exceptionally good first choice for an immortal's abode. Choosing a safe location that no one would probably pay attention to, Su Xing let the beautiful girls appear. I really couldn't take it anymore. Finally, I can come out. Several silhouettes flashed, and 5-star maidens emerged from the star nest in succession. As if she had been suffocating for a very long time, Wu Xinjie breathed great mouthfuls of refreshing air. Yuan, help me keep watch over the surroundings for anyone who comes, Su Xing said. Sure, Yuan cutely hummed in agreement, and the thief star then escaped into the wind. Big brother, will you establish an immortal's abode here? And Suan discovered this environment was not bad. The spiritual vessels were top-notch, but it was just too far. Suspended on its lonesome over the sea, returning afterwards was just inconvenient. This is the advantage of the purple star grade token. You can arbitrarily create 3 void immortals' abodes. Wu Xinjie chuckled. A crafty rabbit has more than 3 burrows. These days, Su Xing already understood from this purple star Liangshan outlaw jade pendant the above-mentioned more or less confidently. He was very much of the mind to construct an immortal's abode. First of all, he controlled a magic circle. Placing the purple star outlaw Rit, Lin Yingmei and Yan Yizhen each stood guard on his sides. Wu Xinjie placed the Heaven's Qi Great Array in order to avoid causing alarm. Su Xing struck several complex seals. They saw the jade pendant suddenly rotate at lightning speed, slowly conforming to the magic circle. It was a kind of sight the naked eye could see. A silky and seemingly woven spiritual influence then was sucked into the jade pendant. Purple light increased sharply. Su Xing raised his essence blood, then began to move his divine intent within his ocean of consciousness to build the structure of the immortal's abode, from the lounge, the storeroom, the martial arts room, the training room, the weapon refinement room to the garden. Everything was as it should be. Under Su Xing's divine intent, a mountain design on the jade pendant then showed a vivid and lifelike immortal's abode depiction. The girls waited nearby, staring, unable to take their eyes away. The Liangshan outlaw jade pendant actually just created a void immortal's abode. It was just that for the purple star rank created a void immortal's abode, it required maximum spiritual influence to sustain. Unlike the earthly fiend and heavenly spirit grades which could do with just abundant spiritual influences, the purple star grade immortal's abode could only be constructed upon a spiritual vessel. Only with this could he maintain the immortal's abode, and the constructed immortal's abode naturally was top quality. Whatever happy paradise Liangshan continent had would not be a match. This absorption of spiritual influences fully used 20 hours. During that time, Su Xing continuously imbued it with star energy. Creating the immortal's abode exhausted several revolutions, and he nearly was unable to support himself. And Suan unceasingly gave Su Xing replenishment for his vital energy and star energy. They prepared more than a dozen bottles of return spirit liquid, supplement chi spirit pills, and other pills were used right now. Finally, he even utilized 2 black turtle heavenly spirit pills, 11, that were received from opening earthly fiend grade treasure chests. He consumed medicines worth a value of at least 100 million liang of gold to finally successfully open the abode. Su Xing in the end fell paralyzed into Suan's bosom, at last understanding from experience the feeling that was called death from excessive ejaculation. 12. Wu Xinjie was also endlessly speechless. The legendary purple star grade immortal's abode indeed was too frightening. However, this sort of exhaustion turned into something completely worth it after the six entered the immortal's abode. Su Xing held the jade pendant upon his hand, and with a flash he entered into the void immortal's abode. The interior of the void immortal's abode itself was empty space, an area of approximately several 100,000 mu, 13, with green hills surrounding green waters, and a dazzling, bejeweled pavilion in the air. A rainbow bridge linked into the clouds and mist, as if chasing it. It was just by staying inside the immortal's abode that Su Xing could then feel his physical strength rapidly recovering. What made Su Xing even more pleasantly surprised was that there was an orchard beside the incredible building. Upon it was a firmament blue tree, 14, and on the tree was hung the pervasive fragrance of flat peaches. Life-extending peaches of immortality? And Suwen saw those peaches and cried out involuntarily. What? Life-extending peaches? Lin Yingmei also felt shocked. You haven't seen wrong? Little sister Suwen? Wu Xinjie was shaken. Life-extending peaches. In olden times, they were a spirit fruit that made Liangshan continent mad. Eating one could extend life by 50 years, and although Liangshan continent's star cultivators cultivated star energy that could also extend their lives, a realm could add just 20 years more of longevity. If they encountered some accident like a wug's poison, a curse or so on, then it would be even less. Even if they cultivated to the highest supreme grade supervoid stage, the most they could have would be 180 years of long life vigor. It could be imagined the sort of idea that a life extending 50 years was. It positively is. And Suwen was very certain. Can this flat peach be picked right now? Yan Yizhen asked. And Suwen carefully examined them, then nodded. Su Xing, eat it right now. Shi Yuan excitedly said. Su Xing smiled. That's foolish. What use is there in me eating it? Can't it increase longevity? Shi Yuan blinked her eyes, immediately realizing, this is to give those old cultivators to eat. The headmaster of this place is in his declining years. The life-extending peach actually can be used to exchange for many precious and unique materials. Wu Xinjie's eyes released light, as if she had seen a beautiful future. Su Xing took this flat peach into his sack, and just as he stored it in an instant, that peach tree rapidly wilted. The group stared blankly. Wu Xinjie had originally thought they had picked up a treasure, and she had hoped this peach tree would produce several life-extending peaches. What was this, picking just one fruit, and the entire tree completely withered? They really did not have even a smidgen of luck. Su Xing said, what a pity, however, this purple star-grade paradise really was not bad. Just the misty spiritual influence of this immortal's abode notwithstanding, the environment, these green mountains and lakes would make people divide their pleasures, especially with a life-extending flat peach that was counted as an item of value. A heavenly star once every year still has 4 months and then would begin. At that time, it can be taken for an exchange. Wu Xinjie muttered. Su Xing nodded his head. This kind of thing was good even if he did not have any use for it. If he used it on a fair exchange, there definitely would be a frenzied squabble for it. Su Xing suddenly came up with an idea. Seeing that the Taoist Master Xuantian's lifespan was at its sunset, he wondered whether or not this life-extending flat peach could be exchanged for that Taoist Master Xuantian's 4 styles school sect protecting treasure, the 4 styles heaven and earth sword. Subsequently, Su Xing again patrolled through his immortal's abode, increasingly satisfied with the purple star-grade immortal's abode the more he looked. This immortal's abode indeed was too defiant of the natural order. It simply was just like a small void Liangshan, with mountains on one side and water on the other, an environment of serene orchards. Other than the reason why the outlaw Liangshan pendant was a requirement for Star Master's immortal abode's tokens, besides abundant spiritual influence and cultivating in the immortal's abode, there was still another big characteristic that was instant paradise. As long as you held the jade pendant in hand, regardless of location, even if he was a world apart from the abode, he could return to it in a flash. This was equivalent to a life-saving talisman. Imagine that, within a life and death battle, Just when an impending crisis loomed, suddenly using the jade pendant to escape back into the abode was superior to an escape technique by an unknown number of ranks. With this jade pendant, as long as he did not encounter the abnormality of a swift defeat, Su Xing could come and go to anywhere in Liangshan with ease. Of course, this kind of jade pendant could not possibly be used often. With every usage of instant paradise, the jade pendant would split open a crack, and with 4 cracks, the jade pendant would be damaged, the immortal's abode also disappearing. However, 3 chances inside the star duels meant he had obtained an unexpected advantage. The spiritual influences of the paradise were abundant, and there was also a bamboo forest. And Suwen released the essence-swallowing dragons to cultivate, and there currently were 60 essence-swallowing dragons. As long as they exceeded 100 at that time, they could be of help. Master, we had still better immediately mix your cultivation, see if you can or cannot enter galaxy stage. Yan Yizhen reminded him at this time. Su Xing was also in agreement. Restraining his excitement, he entered impeccable moral integrity. The girls were left outside the exquisitely made pavilion in the air. Only Wu Xinjie followed to enact a protective magic for Su Xing. 2. Sitting down cross-legged, Su Xing entered a meditative state. A star cultivator's cultivation advancement was one quantitative change turning into another quantitative change. Every change to a promotion was a difficult threshold, and besides requiring star energy to meet some extent, mental state was also a factor. In the slowness, Su Xing then felt his mind outside his body, and his organs, tissues and nerves were seemingly transparent. His star energy condensed clouds that were thickly crammed into his body, an abundance that was hard to imagine. If it was anyone else, they certainly would be in for a surprise. An unprecedented dense magic energy like Su Xing's at the peak of nebula late stage greatly disrespected galaxy cultivators. This was no wonder, for Su Xing had signed 5-star generals, and among them, 2 were top-notch heavenly stars above the rank of 10. Their star energies were matchlessly robust. Changing it into his body naturally was something ordinary people could not compare to. Thus, accumulating over time like this, his star energy would but frighten people to death. However, this way also had shortcoming. Because he had star energy for 5 people, this signified the star energy Su Xing distributed to the star generals would be increasingly dispersed. Outside of resonance, what they received even was not enough for one person. This was an inevitable outcome of contracting multiple star generals, and another important weakness, then, was that it was heavily difficult for Su Xing to advance to the next realm. Nebula stage advancement to galaxy stage required that the cultivator transfer the magic energy in their body, and circulating the nebula magic energy over his whole body for several thousand days, until the clouds and mist turned to threads, the threads into fine rain, and the fine rain mass into a river. 3. At that time, his star energy would become like blood, circulating throughout the cultivator's entire body until it genuinely reached the mixture realm. Clouds and mist turned to threads, the threads into fine rain, and the fine rain mass into a river. Each of these 3 steps could not afford a mistake. Su Xing first of all used the absolute sincerity soul technique to have himself recover to his most profound and calm state of mind, and then he used the secret technique of the purple star transforming Cheech to harmonize the star energy in his body. This made the cloud-shaped magic energy begin to circulate across his whole body. It was excessively tremendous, to the extent that its circulation speed was exceptionally slow, seemingly blocked up by something insufferably difficult to bear. His forehead overflowed with fine beads of sweat. Wu Xinjie took out a handkerchief to lightly wipe them away, her heart secretly praying. How could she ever know the challenge Su Xing currently faced? From the outside, his internals always needed maximum investment, just the so-called 1 minute of applause on the stage, and 10 years of endurance off the stage. Su Xing's lips slightly spread, and Wu Xinjie tacitly understood she was to administer to Su Xing the pills that were prepared beforehand to act as supplements. His suffering expression somewhat improved. Wu Xinjie frowned, gazing at Su Xing just like this, not daring to take her gaze away for the slightest bit. This gaze remained for an entire 20 hours. Su Xing collapsed. He opened his eyes, his whole body already soaked in cold sweat. Did you fail? Wu Xinjie said. Su Xing was depressed. The 20 hours of tremendous nebula star energy in his body was actually too deeply entrenched, as if a boulder was blocking it up. Su Xing already used his greatest strength to go move it, but it still was slow as before. In accordance with this speed, he would need at the minimum several months without stopping for sleep or rest in order to only perhaps see and reach his nebula turn into threads, which truly depressed Su Xing to death. This is the price. Wu Xinjie stuck out her cute tongue. We had better think of some other methods. Su Xing said. Go ask little sister Suwen. She is the divine physician, so she should have some methods that can create a few pills to get through the bottleneck. Wu Xinjie said. 4 cultivations above nebula stage, star cultivators have then entered a different realm. The value of this cultivation bottleneck breakthrough pill was extremely expensive. When Su Xing cultivated just now, he had ingested 10 scattered river pills, and each was a good medicine for the bottleneck of promoting nebula to galaxy. The value of one was above 5 million liang of gold. Certainly, even if this type of pill did not have any results, they could only inquire the efficacious star to again make a plan. And Suwen at this time was sitting on a stone platform in the bamboo grove inside the immortal's abode. Close to more than 60 essence-swallowing dragons currently moved about cheerfully and light-heartedly, a great number of green lights, just like sprites as they decorated the surroundings. The girl rested her chin on both hands, lost in thought. Little sister Suwen, what sort of heat are you in? A charming phrase broke in Suwen's blank stare. Sister Xinjie? And Suwen's face carried a slight smile. Suwen is worried brother perhaps has great difficulty rushing into galaxy. Right, that attack has failed. Wu Xinjie helplessly said, we just happen to want to ask little sister Suwen for your ideas, see if there is some solution. She summarized the situation. When she mentioned whether or not Suwen could manufacture for Su Xing a custom-made breakthrough pill, Suwen's face suddenly flushed slightly red, and put forward that she needed to administer it to Su Xing alone to see. On this point, Wu Xinjie did not have any opinions. Immortal's abode pavilion. The bedroom. Su Xing currently shut his eyes in contemplation. And Suwen carefully and solemnly stepped forward, afraid of disturbing him. As early as when Suwen stepped into the pavilion, Su Xing had already known. He opened his eyes, somewhat embarrassed as he said, Little sis Suwen, I fear I must trouble you. This is something little sister should do. And Suwen's eyes were watery, blinking. Little sister only needs to trouble big brother for a bit. Sure. What do I need to do? Su Xing asked. And Suwen lightly bit her teeth, and little sister must ask for big brother to take off all his clothes. Ah? Su Xing's mouth hung open. Strip off all my clothes? If he was not confident that Suwen was pure and honest, a steady girl, he definitely would have wanted to indulge in fantasy. And Suwen explained, because Suwen wants to know the amount of presence Big Brother's star energy has in the whole body when exerted as well as a few characteristics, in order to prescribe the right medicine for the right illness. 5. Su Xing nodded. Without any hesitation he stripped naked. He had thick skin, and he had experience being stark naked in front of nurses when he previously had physical examinations, anyways. Although physicians had virtue, this was the first time Suwen had seen a man's naked body, and her face was immediately red up to the ears. Big brother, please lay face up on the bed, she softly said. Su Xing lay down according to her instructions. And Suwen then had Su Xing begin harmonizing the star energy in his body. Seeing Su Xing already busy, Suwen lightly exhaled. Her white fingers wiped past her eyes, and she saw clearly. And Suwen walked over, her 2 hands pressing against both ends of Su Xing's neck. When her palms stuck on, the warmth from the girl's hands made Su Xing feel somewhat different. And Suwen's palms stuck to Su Xing's skin, both left and right hands gently and slowly stroking. Through the fiery temperature of his skin, the girl sensed the agitation of the star energy within. Big brother, no random thoughts? And Suwen softly said. Su Xing raised the absolute sincerity soul technique, making his star energy wander throughout his whole body. It was just that this method of Ensuan's to check star energy actually was too unnerving. The girl's slender hands were like a caress, and her arms, too. Certainly, when they caressed his stomach, that penetrating affection's continuous stroking forced all of Su Xing's blood seemingly drop a bit. Ensuan's charming face was embellished with red clouds. She was also afraid of harming Big Brother, her movements graceful and tender, the temperature as their skin mutually rubbed growing warmer and warmer. This was the first time Ensuan had comforted a man's entire body, and the target, as it happened, was the man she liked. Ensuan did her best to bear her restless heartbeat. And after her hands stroked past his waist, that sky-supporting pillar of Su Xing's was revealed in Ensuan's eyes. 6. Big Brother, the girl tenderly cried out, somewhat rebuking him, hurriedly turning her gaze back. Could your hands be a bit firmer? Su Xing was helpless. Ensuan's hands actually were too tender, making his lower half nearly explode. Even if he suppressed it with the absolute sincerity soul technique, its head would rise with Ensuan's slightest movement. The divine physician was the divine physician. Every soft movement, as it turned out, induced Su Xing's hormones. How can this be firm? Ensuan's hands lightly slid past the inside of Su Xing's thighs, the flowing black hair. She strived her hardest to not look out of the corner of her eye at that fearful and imposing spear. Big Brother, your yang qi is too vigorous. This will affect the circulation of magic energy. 7. Ensuan bit her lip, softly speaking. How about you let me first settle this alone for a bit? 6. Ensuan's face flushed red like a completely ripe tomato at Su Xing's frank words. No need. This kind of interruption would affect you even more. Ensuan inwardly breathed deeply. The efficacious star said to herself, a physician is like a parent. Clenching her teeth and steeling herself, both hands grabbed that sky-raising pillar that made her feel ashamed. 6. A boiling heat made Ensuan's body nearly go limp. Su Xing moaned. Suan, Big Brother, don't move. Ensuan's gaze looked at Su Xing, an expression both frowning and in enjoyment. Her slender white fingers then began to move, and the girl's breathing muffled. Her body was also boiling, both legs restlessly twisting. Oh, Su Xing only felt his entire body explode, a kind of indescribable ecstasy cramming the cells of his entire body. Fortunately, his willpower was sufficiently firm, and he knew what the present situation was. Big Brother, use your forces? Ensuan clamped her legs, promptly crying out. Su Xing raised his star energy, entering a blissful seventh heaven of a place. Oh dear. Not wearing one thread, Suan gently took hold of the shao. The two passions mutually fulfilled, the splash was like the blooming of flowers. And by the way, since so many people are wondering, no, Ensuan did not have intercourse with Su Xing. She only gave him a hand, so to speak, and that was enough to pleasure her. A copper man puppet half knelt where it was, its entire body left with countless battle dents. The thief star Shi Yuan was just like an engineering designer, on hand holding the MO attack mechanism records while looking over everywhere on this puppet. Yuana, has the copper man puppet been prepared to advance ranks? Wu Xinjie walked over. The knowledge star found that she really was miserable enough. Ensuan could help Su Xing refine pills. Lin Yingmei and Yan Yizhen currently practiced spear techniques and boxing to exercise to the next realm, and even Shi Yuan found work promoting the puppet. In the end, the ranked third knowledge star was the one most idle with her time. Although she had plans, it was just that they were currently useless. Sister Xinjie, how is young Master Su Xing? Shi Yuan turned her head and asked. Promotion is somewhat difficult, but Suan should have a solution. Wu Xinjie said. Shi Yuan nodded her head, still very much confident in Su Xing. When he comes out, this young lady will give him a nice surprise. You all can help young Lord resolve his difficulties and leave his worries behind. Pretty good indeed. Wu Xinjie smiled. Shi Yuan heard the knowledge star's tone was slightly dejected. Having learned from Su Xing, she patted Wu Xinjie's shoulder, Sister Xinjie, you are actually the one that can most help young lord resolve his difficulties. What the thief star said was not mere consolation. That time with the supercluster cultivator on Grindstone Mountain and that time with the crying infant in the void Liangshan, both were incidents where Wu Xinjie made her name. Otherwise, whether or not they could have passed through smoothly was an unknown. Even Sister Ingmei admires you very much. Wu Xinjie smiled. But you all have something to do. Me wasting time like this is not a solution. The danger of the future purple star grade birth outline is an unknown, and we need to bind around with silk before it rains. The knowledge star muttered, pensive. This kind of troublesome thing will be turned over to Sister Xinjie anyways. Shi Yuan laughed. Wu Xinjie rolled her eyes. I'm preparing to refine this copper man puppet to galaxy stage. Sister Xinjie, do you see any more gaps? Shi Yuan outlined her procedure to refine the puppet. This copper man puppet itself was equivalent to Nebula stage, but going through this many battles, it was on the verge of collapse. The soul driving the copper man puppet also had reached ruination phase. In the days after, it would not have much use in Su Xing's battles, and Shi Yuan already had a 5th-rank soul and 2 6th-rank souls with her that completely could be exchanged for one. The magic circle here can be changed, some relic blade sand can be poured in, if it's over here, Wu Xinjie pointed out a few places that could be improved. Shi Yuan benefited from the advice, and then she began to apply the operation. Seeing Shi Yuan was going to refine the 5th-rank puppet soul, Lin Yingmei and Yan Yizhen stopped their drills and gathered to the side. They saw Shi Yuan first open a large array. Sisters, I'll need to trouble you. Shi Yuan giggled. They nodded, each taking one of the 4 directions. Subsequently, 4-star weapon refinement grade arrays appeared, and the Copper Man puppet's position overlapped with the 4 arrays. Shi Yuan then mobilized Starfire to burn. The Copper Man puppet very quickly became a lump of thick, molten copper under the Starfire. Shi Yuan at this time followed the MO attack mechanism record's so-called figure exchange 2 procedure, and condensed the molten copper into an enormous copper ball. Under Shi Yuan's control, every kind of material then flew into the copper ball and was enveloped. With her divine intent, the copper ball began to expand and lengthen little by little. Go! Shi Yuan read, grabbing a puppet banner. The 5th-rank ancient demon beast Cyclops Jin's enormous soul then scuttled in from the banner. Once the soul entered, the floating molten copper immediately released a splitting noise, and then a manufactured mechanical beast's body slowly took shape. Around 2 hours later, a 3 zhang tall, entirely clad in black armor Cyclops Jin mechanical beast that was like a small mountain appeared before the girls. The process to manufacture a puppet beast was far from over. Afterwards, Shi Yuan then finished little by little the final touches of work. Wu Xinjie and the other 2 fell back to the side. How has young master still not have emerged? Lin Yingmei glanced at the building in the clouds, suspiciously asking Wu Xinjie. Wu Xinjie shook her head, for she also was unclear. Just as they thought about this, the door opened. Su Xing and Ensuan then walked out one after the other. Su Xing seemed to be glowing, his vigor shaking. Shi Yuan, have you finished making it? Seeing that huge mechanical beast the moment he walked out, Su Xing was surprised. And until before the purple star birth outline begins, this young lady will also control the 2 other souls. Shi Yuan controlled her divine intent while speaking, pleased with herself. Su Xing encouraged Ensuan, and then they walked down the rainbow bridge together. Facing the deeply concerned expressions of 3 sisters, Ensuan's cheeks were red as she replied, Suan already knows about the bottleneck of Big Brother's star energy. Within a month, Suan can create something. That is for the best. Wu Xinjie sighed in relief. How sharp was she, being able to see Su Xing's and Ensuan's eyes had a trace of guilt as she made fun of them. Young lord, you and little sister Suan were in the bedroom for this long. Yingmei was even worried that young lord ate little sister Suan. Suan is my little sister, how could I eat her? 3. Su Xing said in deadly earnest. And Suan bashfully blushed in shame, burying her head, continuously nodding in agreement with Su Xing's words. Wu Xinjie had wanted to continue poking fun, when suddenly, at this time, Su Xing's brows twisted. They saw the jade pendant trembled, and a figure appeared in the ocean of consciousness that approached the area. The Void Immortal's abode could stand guard of the surrounding 10 li. In the case someone approached, it would immediately give Su Xing a warning. Su Xing and the rest then left the Immortal's abode, finding the outside was already very late at night. Turning his head around to look at the position of the Void Immortal's abode, the atmosphere had a faint ripple diffusing, visible to the naked eye. However, the Void Immortal's abode had a powerful forbid dance protecting it. If it was not a strong ability user or a specially practiced cultivation method, they still would not be able to perceive that this immortal's abode was present. Su Xing held the jade pendant, carving the divine intents of Lin Yingmei, Wu Xinjie, and Sun, Shi Yuan and Yan Yizhen onto the jade pendant. With this, the 5 beautiful maidens could enter and exit the Void Immortal's abode any time they wished. It seems that Tang Lianxin is coming here. Su Xing's divine intent sensed the approaching person. He turned his head to the beautiful girls. You all can cultivate inside the Immortal's abode, then. That perverted martial Aunt Yueka insists on making me return every night to sleep. Master, do you not need slave servant to protect you? Yan Yizhen said. No need. This is the center of the 4-style school. I won't encounter any dangers here. You all should have your own things to do. Su Xing shook his head. His body techniques shifted, and he fled into the dark night. The beautiful girls' ineffectual faces looked at each other. Big Brother's words are not wrong. In any case, Big Brother is learning tool refinement, so there is nothing we can help with. And Suwen said, this place is the sex center, so we probably will not run into anything dangerous. Wu Xinjie nodded. The group turned and entered the ripple. Before Lin Yingmei entered, she turned her head to stare into the deep and dark night. Only then did she enter into the Immortal's abode. Su Xing very quickly bumped into Tang Lianxin. The 4 Styles sect has established rules. From now on, do not be too late. Tang Lianxin icily said. Turning around, he then left, actually very blunt. Returning to the bamboo house, he saw Tang Lianxin already on the bed, wrapped in the blanket, sealing himself in very tightly. Su Xing yawned, for he actually was very tired. After undoing his clothes, he got on the bed, which made Tang Lianxin tighten the blankets even more. This made Su Xing feel speechless, feeling as though he had infringed upon Lianxin. 5. Very early the second day. Su Xing rose, then thumbed through that thick tool refinement outline, engrossed as he read. Because he was waiting for Ju Yueka to return, Su Xing did not directly return to the Void Immortal's abode. Tang Lianxin was in the courtyard, still practicing his 1 blue and 1 red fantastic flames. I heard Master say it has only been 2 years since you came here? Su Xing could not resist asking. Why would you want to come to the 4 Styles sect? According to what he knew, because of the 4 Style school's environment and blockade, it did not receive favor. It was very rare for people to take the initiative to enter the 4 Style school. Tang Lianxin was briefly silent. Slowly, he said, I was previously at a small tool refinement gang. It was eventually wiped out, so that is why I am here. It sounded as if a period of sadness had passed, however, seeing that his expression was very hard, it did not have any amount of sorrow upon it. I heard you are an apprentice received by an elder heaven clinging divine fire of the 4 Styles school? Tang Lianxin stopped practicing. But he has met with a mishap. And has he taught you anything? Besides simple school entrance soul techniques, there is nothing else. Tang Lianxin kept silent. Su Xing very quickly finished reading several tool refinement books, and not long after, Ju Yueka also arrived at Mirror's Flower Stream upon a riding sword. She did not teach any soul techniques, but said Su Xing's sect robes were complete and made Tang Lianxin accompany him to retrieve them. She also intentionally told Tang Lianxin to take Su Xing around to acquaint himself with the entire flaming Eastern Island, to understand the sect he was part of. However, no matter how Su Xing looked at it, Ju Yueka was thinking of making Tang Lianxin drop that bad antisocial temper. Tang Lianxin nodded, releasing a war chariot. The chariot was on wind wheels, 6, spinning up clouds of dust. The front of the chariot was engraved with the two words, Fire Beacon, making Su Xing startled. This unexpectedly was an astral tool, and it was a rarely seen flight astral tool. Where did this come from? Su Xing said. Tang Lianxin turned his head away, intent on not replying. Su Xing shrugged his shoulders, stepping onto this war chariot, embarrassed. The fire beacon chariot's wind wheels turned, then departed Mirror's flower stream in a flash. It was unknown how much faster this speed was compared to the wind-swayed rafts. The fire beacon chariot very quickly arrived at the beautiful pavilion, and inside, after he finished fitting his robes, they then went to the sword storage pavilion to obtain a sect flying sword. Although they already were a declining large sect, that complex procedure was still maintained. At the sword storage pavilion, they just happened to encounter a group of cultivators that wanted to exchange flying swords. Seeing Su Xing, the newly arrived Nebula late stage, they knew he was Marshal Antueka's apprentice. That group of cultivators contained an inevitable sense of jealousy. In the four-style school, to be able to study under Zhu Yueka was the greatest honor. Little sister Lianxin, long time no see. Have you finally agreed to come out from Mirror's flower stream? A burst of ridiculing laughter. The one who spoke was a very dark-skinned and tall man. He once was selected by Zhu Yueka to be a disciple, but he did not stay for even 2 months before he was expelled. Clamoring with ridicule, at that time, the one who expelled him was none other than Tang Lianxin. Little sister Lianxin? Su Xing frowned and turned his head, looking at Tang Lianxin's indifference. Little sister Lianxin is still so cold. You even forced Marshal Antueka to find a partner for you. The man roared with laughter, as did the other cultivators. Tang Lianxin had come to the sect for only 2 years, and because of his outstanding talent and esteem, it was just like he had been looked upon as the core of the four-style school's future. Regarding these disciples that had stayed at the sect for more than 10 years, naturally they were brimming with indignation and jealousy. However, they were still of the same school, so they only dared to talk. To commit an offense against Master Antueka, there was no recovering from that. To see with their own eyes people escape from this predicament, how could they not seize the chance to knowingly smile? A coward, as expected. How embarrassing. Seeing Tang Lianxin's face was expressionless, the man disdainfully curled his lips. Inviting a snub, in an instant, cold wind poured into his ear. The man had not yet come back to his senses when a flying sword immediately shot to and touched his forehead. His legs immediately went limp. Yeah, right. As expected, only sissies would rely on insulting others to promote their own superiority. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.